to episode 126 of Killer POV. I'm one of your hosts, Rob G. from Blumhouse.com. With me, as always, drinker of Beck's beer, courtesy of Adam Lima.
Again.
Is Elric Kane. How are you, sir?
I'm all right. A little Thanksgiving tired still.
Yeah, still?
You know, still, yeah, there just aren't any good Thanksgiving horror films out there.
No, there's not enough.
The one thing that really made me mad was realizing that You're Next was still not a Thanksgiving movie.
It should be.
It really upsets me because it has everything. Even that they're around the table, for Christ's sake. The weather's right. It's just like, put a fucking turkey there. And a classic on our hands.
Just so we can label it.
It could have been the best Thanksgiving movie of all time.
It would have been the best Thanksgiving movie.
No competition.
But you got away.
I intended to rewatch it on Thanksgiving, and then I just totally forgot.
But you got away and got to relax for Thanksgiving.
I guess I get to. You never get to relax if you have kids. You're not really relaxing. If you're with them, you're not relaxing.
You bring them, yeah.
You can't get away from them. You can travel out of the state.
See, you should have stayed at your house because I fed your cat and it was very quiet.
That's true. Wow. But I did get to watch a lot of movies because I went away, and when you are at other people's houses who pay for cable, you can do all the VOD.
Oh, I see. You can
so
take
I got all the
advantage.
new movies I could.
Right.
Because I am still a scumbag at heart. I'm still a 20-year-old scumbag.
We know that.
Did you take your laundry along too?
No, I didn't do that, but you know, I have some scruples.
Take advantage of it. Last but not least, with us also is Rebekah McKendry.
Hello.
Editor-in-Chief, Blumhouse.com. Welcome.
What up?
Yeah.
Yay.
She might not last the entire episode because she's been fainting.
She's on the verge of birth.
You know, and
it might be this episode.
No, God, I have 2 months to go, but no. So the lovely little guy in my belly has been stealing my blood all day, which is trippy to think about because then like I go to see my doctor and she's like, you have to think of him as a small parasite and he'll probably stay that way for 18 years. And so yeah, that's it. But
welcome to our horror podcast. That is horrific as it gets.
Pregnancy.
Only a couple more episodes till the end of the year.
Yeah,
we
in
December.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Off the top of the show, I just wanted to send out a couple of thanks out there. Number one to John Holland. He's a friend of ours from Texas who he usually does graphics for us every week that we put on the Facebook page. Mm-hmm. And he has a horror radio broadcast show called In the Theater of the Mind. It's on iTunes for free. He sent us a bunch of copies. We'll definitely post a link for it, but you guys should check it out. If you like things like Tales from Beyond the Pale, the Glass Eye Pix show, definitely worth a listen. So that's number one. Number two, huge shout out and thanks to Jennifer Lovely, friend and listener of the show. Up until the last few episodes, she was the brave soul that would listen to every episode and write down every movie that we mentioned and then email it to us. And in turn, because a lot of people always say, oh, what was that movie you're talking about? I missed that title. So for a long time, she would catalog everything we mentioned per episode, and we would put it up on our Facebook page as a note. So after 120 some odd episodes, she does have a personal life and, not a lot of time on her hands. So I just wanted to thank her for everything she put into it thus far. Super cool.
You'll be back, Jennifer. You'll be back. You can't get away from us.
We love her. She's
just when I thought I was
awesome.
out.
Thank you for doing that. And she also always had to check in because she couldn't understand what I said sometimes.
Yes.
I always appreciate it.
You talk very fast
Or
sometimes.
Apparently.
I like that she would message me on Facebook and be like, you said the name Dead of Night. There's like 7. Which one were we
which one is
talking
it?
about?
Yeah.
So I had to do that a few times. Or she couldn't find like the weird Yugoslavian vampire made for TV movie I was referencing or whatever it was.
Right.
She was very thorough. I loved that.
She was
committed.
So at least for the first 100 or so, if you go on our Facebook page and notes, you'll see everything that we've talked about. We don't have time to do notes for future episodes. If anyone out there wants to take up the
Join
mantle,
the staff of Killer POV.
we thank you and wish you luck. But so that's that. So movies. There is one I've been dying to talk about. For weeks now. And I can talk about it because it comes out today.
I have heard such good things about this.
Directed by David Hess.
No. What? Not that one. Not To All a Good Night. That's next week. No, we're talking about Krampus, the new movie from Michael Dougherty, who wrote and directed Trick or Treat.
Which you had to say because otherwise people say which one, which Krampus, because I think 2 come out this weekend.
Well, that's the funny thing. I know I saw John Squires. I think he tweeted about how... because I didn't know if this actually works, but it totally does. If you go on, if you went on Amazon last week, there's like 5 movies that are like the Krampus story or the Krampus this, and they're all sold out on Amazon.
Wow.
So he's like, it worked. These people think this is the new, Trick or Treat Krampus, and it's not. It's just knockoffs that are on Amazon right now. But no, this one is the real deal. Forget all those other ones.
And it's only in theatrical right now. Like
Theaters.
You can't get it
no
on
DVD,
Amazon.
No nothing. This is a legit Legend. If Legendary can put out Crimson Peak, then this one deserves a shot. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. If you love what Trick or Treat was in terms of how he tackled Halloween, the holiday, and by that I mean there's horror, there's humor, there's a lot of interesting things that really encompass, what you think of the holiday. He did the exact same thing with Christmas for this. I think it embodies all the fun, all the sort of stuff. It's got the drama, the family drama that everybody can relate to because you're stuck with your family.
Yeah, it looked like Home for the Holidays at the start, which
Pretty
looked
much.
fun.
Yeah.
It worked because I was with, I'm not sure if I said this last week, but I was with Selena and we saw the Seth Rogen Christmas thing. The trailer for that was on before, and she's like, I really want to see that. It looks funny. She likes comedies.
Right.
And then the first half of this trailer started, and I go, do you want to see this one? She goes, oh, it looks so great. Do you promise you will watch this movie with me? She goes, yeah. And then the second half of the trailer kicked in, and she was just like, no. Because it just looked like the horror film part, and so I was ecstatic that I'm going to force her to see that with me.
Well, I didn't even realize until today that it's technically it's rated PG-13, but I wouldn't have known that because it's in, you know what it is tonally, it's like an Amblin movie. I mean, it's got, he's obviously a big fan of that era of films in general, and this is the closest Christmas horror movie we've gotten to Gremlins.
Cool.
It's exactly in that same tone where it's pretty fun. It's funnier than you'd expect it to be. And then when some dark shit happens, it's actually a little darker than you expect. So you're like, oh, that's kind of, did that Jack in the Box just eat somebody?
But then Gremlins does
twisted.
that. Gremlins has the
Exactly,
same
which is
kind of
why
thing.
I was like, oh, it's totally got that Gremlins vibe
So
going.
that comes out broad this week.
Friday, December 4th, it'll be out. And
now, if you're predicting, do you think we're going to be disappointed what our audience does with this, or do you think they're going to actually get out there?
God,
and see
I hope
this
they
movie?
go because, quite frankly, what else? At least for our demographic, what else is there that's opening this week?
Well, that's the problem.
This is the
ground. It's the ground where all the films come, right? Like everything you've got from Creed, obviously, to The Revenant will start coming out, and then soon will be Inglourious Basterds. Like this whole month will be jammed with.
Okay, well, I recommend the horror fans go see it.
Of course, we need.
If they do, then we'll get Trick or Treat 2. If it does well enough, that will be the next movie. But
I really, even if it wasn't great, the trailer made me want to see it. And,
no, it's gorgeous.
Really good hype because all of the critics are raving about it. I keep seeing Facebook posts about how amazing it is. All the people who have been to the critic and preview screening so far say that it's just like the film of the year. I've heard people calling it the number one film of 2015
with any kind of budget. So when I use the word studio film, I just mean that looks like it was made for a few $1 million. How many have been any good in the last couple of years? No, very few. And so it's like it would be nice to see some of those work.
Yeah, and usually when you get something of that sort with money behind it, it feels like there's some sort of studio note or studio interference. And no, this feels through and through like a Doherty, like his sensibilities. I just was so surprised by. There's a lot of fun little creatures in it, and by creatures, it's like everything that you associate with Christmas, whether it be a gingerbread man cookie or a Jack in the Box or a teddy bear. He somehow puts a sinister twist on it. They're like, oh wow, I didn't realize Christmas is so sinister. Yeah. So I think it's a lot of fun. I think you guys are going to really love it.
We'll do our best to entice him to come back to discuss because this is great
one to talk about. It's in the cards. And all I have to say is, I thought I don't want to spoil anything, but I laughed out loud really hard for the first 5 minutes because it kind of opens on it opens on Black Friday. And the song choice, the way it's shot, the whole opening, it just embodies what Christmas is now.
Cool.
Like what we think of Christmas. So right from the get-go, first few minutes, I'm like, yeah, all right, I'm in love with this movie.
It's hard to beat Santa's Sleigh, though, the greatest opening of any movie. I like, and I'm not kidding. That's even not, I don't like that as a whole movie, but I love the opening of Santa's Sleigh, where Santa comes and just takes everyone down. It's great. Fran Drescher.
Everything else is, I'm just going to fly through, but what have you guys seen that you want to discuss?
I did see the one probably people were wondering about because you guys both saw it was Goodnight Mommy.
Oh man, here comes the final verdict.
yeah.
The final verdict. So this is the movie that I assumed because you didn't like it, or because you guys didn't, love it, and you were saying the critical things. I just assumed that meant it because it was already. I would love it. Surprisingly, it is intriguing. Definitely intriguing. First half's very intriguing. It's interesting. It's beautifully shot. It's definitely one of the kind of best put together films I've seen this year, and it just does not work for me as a movie. Yeah. And it's the exact same reason as you guys do. I'd say spoiler now. You don't want to listen. I'm not going to be specific, but don't listen if you're still excited to see Goodnight Mommy. It's just in general, like one of the rules I was mentioning to you guys before I have in movies in general, because I love dreamy imagery, but it literally is cheating when the best scenes and best imagery of your movie is in a dream scene that has no connection to what happens in the narrative. So not Nightmare on Elm Street where dreams are connected. Then your film has a problem. And the best two or three moments in this movie, the best moments are in dreams that are not connected. I mean, you could say they're connected to psychology, but they are not part of the narrative, and that's just idiotic. and they look great. And if the movie was one of those dreams, it'd be the best horror film of the year. Like, it would have been a great. It has all the trappings, except I still never really felt for the main characters anyway. Even in the first half, which is good, I didn't really connect emotionally. And so it has twists and all sorts of stuff. I'm not going to spoil that kind of stuff.
Did you get the twist from the beginning? Because the people I was watching it with, somebody at the very beginning goes, "Oh my god, it's just like," and named a movie with the same twist. And so I was just the whole
that would
movie.
definitely. No, I did. I definitely didn't.
Okay.
At a certain point, I was like, because I think part of it that helps not identify certain twists in it is that it is foreign. I think if that was American, I think certain things, but because they're speaking sometimes you're confused who they're talking about, and just the trajectory. But it's a major red herring movie in a way that isn't a good way. It's not like the twist pays off. It's like you're basically going down a road hoping it's this one movie, which is the movie it advertises itself as, and with the mom, obviously. And then it really isn't that movie. And so that's clever, but it's just not my bag. So I was definitely, what I did say, what I think is interesting about this movie, because the first time I felt this, that feeling that certain people had with It Follows, but especially Babadook. I mean, It Follows less because it has this kind of ambiguous ending, but the Babadook has a very, legitimate, straightforward ending, right? I remember reading when people were reacting who didn't like that movie, the reason for not liking it always seemed to be about the ending, expelling all the myth, blah, blah. I feel like I didn't see that about that film, but with this film I did. And so I kind of got what people felt like, oh, it's overhyped and this is the thing. This is the first time I've kind of understood that kind of criticism with a movie. But it's still good. Do you still
think people should check it out?
I do. I think it's still one of the better made films, and I think it's funny. And again, it makes sense. I will watch the interview on the disc, the Blu-ray that's coming out, or it has come out.
It's out. Yeah, it's out this week.
You watch these two directors talk. All their favorite films are basically my favorite film. I mean, almost every reference point to their movie are my favorite movies. So there's a lot to be that I can tell, like I was kind of being pulled in with. It's just I think making films that rely so heavily on twists and stuff sometimes can, cheapen the film.
Yeah.
That was disappointing. Just going to throw out the TV show, Jessica Jones.
Yes.
Yeah, that's dominated my Thanksgiving.
These people online who are saying things like best thing Marvel's ever done, all this kind of stuff, they're so completely right.
Yeah, I agree.
I think Marvel actually needs to stop and really look at the series and kind of go, oh, what did they do that maybe? Because I think Scott Reynolds, who's been a guest here, misunderstood a tweet I made early on when I said the show. I was like, oh man, this is like the best thing ever. And I'd really love to see Spider-Man set in the world. And he wrote back, oh, but it's, this is too dark for Spider-Man. But I completely disagree. I don't mean it has to have quite as dark as the conversations and the backstory. I just mean the reality of that world in terms of comic books is exactly the only place they haven't actually done Spider-Man in TV and movies, but the place where, say, the McFarlane comics, that first run where Lizard Man's a serial killer, that's what I've always wanted to see Spider-Man in that world. And that is the world. A grounded Peter Parker comes back and lives in an apartment building like Jessica Jones. I would love to see that. And it's the only place that series. But regardless of that, I absolutely love this show. And I'm up to 11 or 10. I think I'm halfway through in 11. And I just think the Kilgrave and her relationship is absolutely fascinating. It's one of the most adult, interesting things I've seen.
Yeah.
About control, addiction, all these kind of, it's a fascinating show.
Yeah, I loved it.
Highly recommend
Bekah,
it.
you're watching it too, right?
Yeah, that's dominated my Thanksgiving break. Like, I didn't watch that much horror because I was watching like 2 episodes of it was like a schedule, 2 episodes of Jessica Jones a day and then 1 of Narcos, which I've also, it's another Netflix original show that I've been totally into. And then because Showtime's been free on Hulu for the past week, they've been doing like a Showtime preview week. I've watched all these shows on Hulu.
I should take advantage of that.
Yeah, you catch up because they've got like, it's only 1, but I can't even, like Homeland's on there.
Okay.
And so I watched that and I watched Penny Dreadful, but they've got like a couple episodes from each show. So I've been catching up on all these TV shows that I really need to be watching more of. I watched the first couple episodes of The Leftovers and was completely riveted.
That show's still going strong. That show's pretty amazing.
I know. I really I canceled my HBO a while ago because the only thing I ever watched was Vice and Game of Thrones. And now I really want it back for Leftovers. So I may have to go and get HBO
I think it only
again
has
for
like
that.
1 episode left, so you might as well. Just
But
win.
I'm way back, so I need to get
I see.
HBO Go so I can like binge watch all of it. So, but yeah, the only other things I watched San Andreas, which was not horror. Or I guess you can consider it
No
that.
rock
but,
on the show.
No rock. Oh come on,
Rock
it was
free.
total. It was just brain candy. Like there was so much wrong with it.
I just bought the 3D version. I can't wait.
Oh my God, it's going to be beautiful in 3D. It was just things flying at your face the entire time.
Amazing.
And it was just an hour and a half of me just mesmerized by everything that's going on. So yeah, it was fun. And then the only horror thing I watched over break was Ghost Story. Which we've discussed a lot on the show. I had never seen it before.
Yeah, I hadn't
And absolutely loved it. Thought it was great and can't believe I missed it up to this point. So the Scream Factory one is now out. So I highly recommend if you have not seen Ghost Story yet, check it out. It's definitely kind of a nice little
Yeah, I love
welcome
that's
addition.
what I love about Scream Factory is they will put out the occasional film that is just for specific fans.
Wait till Sonny Boy.
And I know I can't wait for that.
I mean, most people
I
are going
was
to
so
not like
stoked
this movie.
when
Like
you
Sonny
talked
Boy,
about it early in the show, and then they announced
It's so
it.
bizarre. But Sonny Boy, it's being, I'd say their cover is a little is pretty misleading.
Oh, really?
I mean,
It's like the hand
It
coming out
really
of
is
the-
not a horror film. It is like a film more in the vein of like John Waters and Blue Velvet and things like that. It's just super weird.
Okay.
It is not at all like not even 1% horror. It's just whack job movie. But I love it. And it was one of our listeners who turned me onto it when we were in Texas.
Oh, right.
So I'm really excited about that release, and hopefully we can like downplay that as horror, so the people buying it will be excited to see like a cult movie rather than a disappointed by it. Because
I thought White of the Eye was like that. Like
Yeah.
it
It
wasn't
is.
really a horror
But the White
movie,
of
but
the Eye has like a couple really gritty slasher moments.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
this is like this is David Carradine in a dress raising like a baby. Brad, or like the weirdest things you've ever seen.
Oh my gosh.
It's a weird movie.
Speaking of weird culty things, I did watch Forbidden Zone because they did the Ultimate Blu-ray a couple of years ago. They did like the really, really good Blu-ray, and then they just released the Ultimate Blu-ray. So I rewatched that. And it's still trippy, and I have no idea what goes on throughout most of it, but it's kind of mesmerizing to watch. So yay.
Elric, did you have anything else?
Yeah, I saw 4 other things.
All right. Oh God. All right. Let's see.
Man,
some of them are short.
you
This is-
really did
well, I
like
told you
use
I-
their
let's go quick.
VOD.
Because I've got
I've
a
only
few
talked about
too.
Goodnight Mommy. Felt is the film by the director of Toad Road,
Oh,
Jason
wow.
Banker. I'd read somebody write a good review of it. It's a rape survivor revenge kind of film. It's played out like kind of a high-end mumblecore like drama for the most part about a couple, and then it ends in bloodshed kind of thing. One of those movies where the horror's only in the last 5 minutes.
Oh.
For good or bad, some of you will find it interesting. I won't recommend it because it's pretty brutal. It's an ugly thing, but I also really like the build up. I like the way it's shot. It's less mysterious than Toad Road. What I really liked about Toad Road was the mysterious feel, but it's kind of equally outsider. It hasn't lost it. He's still the same director.
Toad Road felt like almost like a documentary.
Yeah,
like
this one
like
doesn't
found
have that
footage.
necessarily.
This is more
It's more of a
cinematic.
narrative, yeah. But between the couple who are at the heart of the film, it's good, and it's on Netflix for free, so you could always start watching and see if it grabs you. If you're into that kind of movie, watch it.
Right.
But it gets ugly. A couple interesting ones. The Hallow, Irish horror.
Dynasty.
I've heard really good
monster
things
film.
about that.
Very good film, very well made. It's a tense monster movie. I kind of liken to it's not not quite on the same level, but it's kind of like a Pumpkinhead. It's kind of because it's an Irish folktale. It's about the forest, creatures in the forest. A couple come and basically it all moves really fast once they get up there. As soon as they enter the narrative. stuff's happening. They're being attacked. Stuff happens. I don't want to ruin it for you. The monsters are really great. The imagery, there's really no negatives about it. It's just a really solid monster movie.
Where'd you see that one?
Again,
VOD?
it was a VOD one
okay.
that I did not pay for. Charged the in-laws. But it's actually really entertaining. I think it's actually one of the better made movies of the year. And I think people will really dig that for an old school monster movie. Then one that I was underwhelmed by that I had been really excited to see called Hellions.
Oh, yeah.
By Pontypool director Bruce McDonald. He's directed some really great cult Canadian films. Hellions is that problem, similar to what I was saying about the dream scenes of Goodnight Mommy, but the whole movie's kind of set in a dreamy, after the first 10 minutes, all set in kind of a dreamscape. The color changes in the movie, and it's like a red filter for the whole movie. Mm-hmm. And it's all set on Halloween, which is the cool thing. So it's all Halloween. It's like trick-or-treat characters coming to get you kind of thing. There's something about it that just never connected, and I don't want to say I call bullshit on it, but it just didn't have that. It played at Sundance and it played at some major festivals, but it just didn't have that thing where I ever cared about what was happening to her. I didn't really believe what was happening to her. But if you like the iconography of Halloween, it does it all the way. Like some really creepy. What I liked about the creatures that like kind of the creepy kid type things like are after her is they're more like those photos that people post around Halloween of old Halloween, like from 1930, and you'll see these costumes that are really like weird and offbeat kids, and you're like, that's kind of terrifying. It's that kind of thing, which is awesome. So on one level, it's got this really cool stuff. It's just the actual narrative, and he's become not Pontypool's still pretty straight, even though the narrative's weird. He's become quite experimental in his technique of telling movies. The one before it, he made with the girl from Juno. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like frames within frames and multiple cut-ups, which can be cool. Wow. And sometimes you just aren't engaged, and you're like, I don't care. And it kind of goes that route for me. And then the last one, which is flat out, honestly believe that this is the best. I got some flags. Certain filmmakers even wrote me saying how wrong I was about this. Privately, I won't name them, but I believe that Bone Tomahawk is the best debut film by a director. And there's other ones, but in terms of voice, since Blood Simple by the Coen brothers, and I'm probably saying them because of the similarity of black humor, dark dialogue, but the assurance, but if you go back and watch Blood Simple, it's like perfectly directed with the script. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But that's their first film. And Blood Simple is not, Bone Tomahawk is not the film where you're like, I tried to get a film made and then I made this little movie. This is like, everything in it is assured.
Art piece. It's beautiful.
I avoided seeing this movie. Dick Renner had said it was a masterpiece, and I mocked him openly for it because he uses that word too much. But sorry, Dick.
I told you it was like my favorite film of the year so far.
Which made me not want to see it, and I just assumed I would hate it. But no, because I think my problem is I hadn't seen any trailers or anything, and I think I'd seen the image of Kurt Russell, which is exciting, but I just thought, it's going to be a straight Western. And what this is it's like the dialogue is the best dialogue I've heard like in a couple years.
The guy that directed it has a long history as a novelist. Yeah.
And I think some people go, he's just a novelist, he's not a filmmaker. Then I looked up deeper, and he went to film school, and he was a cinematographer on a lot of shorts and stuff. So I think he has a really assured visual style. But his written thing, of everyone, I'm going to do everything I can to get him on the show. It doesn't have to be before Christmas, but it's just so interesting. I'm very curious how he could have put together such a perfect cast. But this is Kurt's amazing, but Richard Jenkins, this is he's great in a lot of movies. This is career best role. This might be his best role, and this is an actor who has done in some amazing roles. He is hilarious in the film, but everyone's good. Even the guy from Lost is amazing. Matthew Fox is playing a really specific, almost Val Kilmer, Wyatt Earp's that character he plays in Wyatt Earp. He kind of has a similar look to him,
but he's remarkable.
He's really good. And so this movie and it is horror. It's not horror. It's completely a Western, but it definitely goes into horror moments. For real. The horror moments come fast. They shock you, and you're like, whoa. And the coolest thing, the opening scene is Sid Haig.
Yeah. Oh.
So and David Arquette and Sid Haig open the movie, and you're like,
all right,
what?
I'm going to buy this one on VOD and check it out.
I absolutely love it. And here's the weird thing. I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm not even sure because here's kind of a shock. Two of the best films this year were both made by first-time directors who are both novelists. Ex Machina, same thing.
Oh, wow.
First directing film, and he's like the Alex Garland who wrote, The Beach and stuff. So I was thinking about both those movies. I don't know when we do our top 10, if I don't know whether I place them in my top 10 of the year because they'd both be right up top, but I put them in my top 10 movies. But horror, I don't really, it's just clearly a Western that has horror elements.
See, I
So I'm a
consider
little
Bone
torn.
Tomahawk to kind of be horror as well.
I don't know. I'm torn on
Just
it.
because it's so visceral.
Yeah. I literally think it's a Coen Brother movie. Imagine if a Coen Brother characters wandered into Ruggero Deodato, like and just
That's it.
accidentally, like,
It's it,
oops,
exactly.
and then something bad happened. You're like,
That's pretty amazing.
Which
That's
is
the
awesome.
greatest
It's
description
seriously,
ever.
it is like the most brutal Western
Yeah.
I think I've ever seen. And I mean, like, it puts Cutthroat's 9 to shame. Like, I definitely think it crosses the line from horror to Westerns. So.
And I've been hearing about
I am
Hateful Eight,
down.
which is,
Yeah,
Russell's
yeah.
other one. I heard those early words which really excited me. I think is Devin Faraci. He said, this might be his like darkest film yet, and it goes like full Peckinpah almost territory. And I'm like in, like so in.
Like for
can't.
Hateful Eight, you mean?
Yeah, for
Oh,
Hateful Eight. So
wow.
I'm like really excited now to see Hateful
Wow.
Eight.
Cool.
But
That's
no,
awesome.
Bone Tomahawk, yeah. If me and you are on the same page, some
That
black
could be unanimous
star
one.
is
All right.
rising.
I'm going to check it out.
Completely.
I'm just going to go through a couple really quick ones because I don't have as much to say about these as I did Krampus. But so every week I do a Killer POV pick of the week on Blumhouse.com. This week, I've already talked about this film, but it just hit Netflix, and that's why I wanted to bring it up again. Electric Boogaloo, the documentary about the Golden Globus.
Oh, that's on
canning
Netflix streaming
years.
now?
Just popped on Netflix streaming this week.
Cool.
I rewatched it this week, and I had just as much fun watching
fun.
it. It's just, you know what, if and it's not obviously all horror, but Mark Hartley, who directed it, I love his first movie. Not Quite Hollywood, I think, is
Yeah, that's my
fantastic.
favorite.
That's
It's
the
awesome.
best doc he's made. I do like Machete Maidens Unleashed, which is the second one, but I feel like it's almost more of
Extra.
I feel like it's a great companion piece to Corman's World.
Yeah.
Because the most compelling part of Machete Maidens is when they do a whole segment about Corman going to shoot movies in the Philippines
Yeah.
and stuff. So I feel like if you see Corman's World, that Machete Maidens is kind of a great companion to that.
Yeah.
And now this one is more, I don't want to say pulling on our nostalgic strings, but I definitely feel it does because every movie covered is the movies we grew up on and saw at the video store and saw on HBO a million times, Over the Top with Stallone, Masters of the Universe, Texas Chainsaw 2. And you hear some of these stories of how these movies happened and like kind of the ambition and what they were trying to accomplish with it. And that's what makes it kind of fun is like you watch this and it's a nice trip down what I call the video store aisle. That's what it feels like.
Well, as kids, we didn't think about how these films came. We just said, wow, we have all these great, fun, fantastic movies. And then you get a bit older and you go, what the fuck was happening? Like, how are those movies getting made?
Yeah.
And then you find out the stories and go, oh, it's because you're trying to show off or you're trying to spend as much as you could on a movie. You're throwing Toby Hooper every cent
Good
you
God,
have. Like,
yeah.
Life Force is insane. How
His
they
most
make that movie.
expensive movies are through them.
Yeah,
You
no, I
know?
mean, I actually agree. I think that's the coolest thing about it. My only criticism with it's not, what can he do? But I would have loved to have also had their voices. And if another documentary existed with their voices, I would love to hear from those two people looking back. Like if he could have gained their trust after making it, showing
Yeah.
it to them and been like, see, it's great. Now can I interview you guys to like get your kind of feeling about that time?
Right.
But what can you do?
Yeah, but I thought they were through stock footage and older interviews. I thought they were represented well enough.
No, I think I mean like hearing their side of it.
Yeah,
if you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
how did they see this whole thing? But you
Yeah.
wouldn't probably get a real answer. Who knows?
That's true. All right, so that one's on Netflix and strongly recommend it. I saw not really horror but fringy. I saw Vendetta, which is the movie that the Saska twins made with is it WWE?
The wrestling one?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because it's got Dean Cain as the main guy and all that. But it's not bad and it's not great. It's really cool. It's fun and it's weird to me because it's like I don't know how these two gals captured perfectly the kind of late 80s action prison movie. It's very much, it feels like a little gem from the late 80s. Like the sort of like, like when Stallone and Seagal and all these guys were making these movies back then, there was always like one, it's like a Lockup, but like
Presumed
but
innocent.
more like in the Van Damme Seagal, thing where there's obviously clearly bad guys and stuff like that. I thought Dean Cain was fantastic in it. I always thought he was vastly underrated because he kind of gets a bad rap for just being the Superman, the TV Superman, but he's really great in it. And it's really violent and gory. So I thought that was good. I love that this is probably a film filled with more testosterone than anything I've seen all year, and it was made by two kick-ass chicks. So I think that's kind of amazing.
Is this a film that's already out, or is this
yeah, it's out. Okay. I think it's on.
That got a really
so that's
quiet
their second
release.
film of the wrestling. They made two, right?
They did the See No Evil 2. Right?
Okay,
is that the
so
one?
that was their second
so
one.
This
with
is their
wrestling.
second one with them, with WWE and I guess Lionsgate as well.
Okay.
I got to. I think it came out on Blu-ray already. I saw it, and it was on VOD for a bit. But yeah, I thought it was a lot of fun. If you like that, it fits in perfectly with me talking about Golden Globus because it's kind of like that type of movie. So yeah, that's why I thought I should recommend
most of
it.
the WWE movies, they kind of use them as ways to elevate the wrestlers. Does it have a lot of wrestlers in it?
Well, I'm not a wrestling fan, so I don't know. But there's guys that are so ginormous that they must be wrestling.
Okay.
I look at the villain and I'm like, all right, this guy's like 8 feet tall and a giant. He's obviously a famous wrestler. I just don't know who he is. But yeah, and they're in prison.
So it works outside of the wrestling world.
Yeah, no, I knew nothing about it. I just thought they made good villains. And sometimes, wrestlers' acting abilities are somewhat questionable.
Yeah.
But that's why I say it's got that late 80s action movie vibe because everybody was kind of weird and over the top at that point.
Remember No Holds Barred with Hulk Hogan?
Of course. So that was a fun one. You should check it out if you like that sort of thing. Okay, really quickly, the bad. Life After Beth, I finally tried to watch. I couldn't finish it.
Is that Joe Dante's one? No,
that one's Burying the Ex, which I also hear is not very good.
It's not.
Life After Beth was like a Lionsgate movie that had Molly Shannon's the mom. Aubrey Plaza, who I absolutely love, is like kind of this zombie, and her boyfriend is what's that kid's name from Chronicle? Dahan, whatever his name is. It's like his girlfriend dies and then comes back, and she doesn't know she's a zombie and all that. And I tried. Usually, I don't talk about a movie if I don't watch the whole thing, but I watched an hour of it, and that's only because of my devotion and love to Aubrey Plaza. But did not smile or laugh at all. And it's supposed to be like a comedy, like a horror comedy.
Bleak.
So it's really not fun. So you could skip that one, stick with Warm Bodies or whatever, which is kind of in a similar vein and at least somewhat more entertaining than that one.
Burying the Ex is a little bit better. I saw both of them.
Okay.
Yeah, Burying the Ex is a little bit better. It's very self-aware for horror fans, which some horror fans have absolutely loved because the main character is supposed to be like a big horror fan in it. Mm-hmm. And so some people have been like, oh, I loved that he do Cannibal Holocaust. And then others thought it was a bit too wink wink. For the actual movie, it didn't work for me. I was
wonder
not
why they
so
all came
into
out though, all at the same time. I wonder if their scripts were always out there.
It's a pretty common concept. I think that one,
Yeah, it's back in the day. It was called My Boyfriend's Back. I saw one about 20 years ago, and I always liked that movie. I just thought it was really funny.
I thought it was called
Death.
Crap. What's it? The guy comes back from Vietnam, a zombie.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
it's not
Death
a
Dream.
comedy.
But that's great.
Straightforward.
No, Death Dream's awesome.
I love
but
Death
that's,
Dream.
I mean,
That's
these are
the
all
comedy
comical.
version.
And did you guys
of
hear
it.
what we Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things is going to get a Blu-ray release?
Oh, really? From
Yeah, I don't know. I just saw it. It was on the Diabolic site yesterday.
Cool.
That's great.
It's coming soon. I've never seen that one, so I was kind of excited to. I like all the Bob Clark's horror. So.
Yeah, me too. And another one, Women's Prison Massacre, comes out Tuesday. This Tuesday, December 8th.
Fine Italian exploitation there.
Bruno Mattei, why do you keep doing this to me? I know you're no longer with us. I dare say this is unwatchable.
Well, you've just enticed somebody.
I've tried 5 times to watch it. I know, Bekah, you liked my clip. There's a clip. It's the girl, Laura Gemser, who played Black Emmanuel, who I love. So I'm like, I'm going to make it through this movie because she's in it. And I just couldn't. It's just kind of mean-spirited, nasty, not a lot of no good acting at all, no good logic. But I did laugh a lot when they challenged each other to an arm wrestling match in jail to prove who's the more badass girl. And then a bunch of essentially the guys from Last House on the Left end up going to the jail, and then it gets even nastier with really awkward. They kind of take over the jail, and there's awkward rape and stuff. It's just, I'm sure there's a ton of better women prison movies.
There are, and actually that same plot, Temptation Island, I think, is probably the best one that does that kind of, it's a prison and then they throw girls into the mix, or it's a prison and then they throw guys into the mix. Go watch Temptation Island.
But here's the thing. If you want terrible Bruno Mattei stuff in high def, and you're a completist, because I am one of those people that just can't help myself, you're probably going to want to pick this up. It's not that expensive, but I don't recommend it. That's it.
I love exploitation films, and even I was like, well, this is just boring. It's not that it's it's just boring.
Save your money and go watch Creed.
Yeah,
You love
no
America.
doubt.
Yes, I love America.
That film really is terrific. And I will say about Creed, because I do think it's relevant to horror, it could be relevant, say, to Insidious or something, is the idea of like, Stallone has to take a huge risk. I mean, you could say it's not a huge risk because the franchise is going to run out of steam. But to me, it's a huge risk to give the rights of what you're making to a 27-year-old director, a 27-year-old star who's a sub-character, in your franchise, and let them just run with it creatively. And then in that framework, so it's basically old Hollywood taking a major risk on next generation Hollywood, just like they had to take on Stallone.
Yeah.
There's no Rocky without them taking the biggest risk ever. I mean, he kind of held them hostage by having ridden it, but without that, and you realize this is how great work, I think, can happen in Hollywood. Just like if you're redoing Friday 13th, I'd go, okay, then throw it to Adam Wingard or someone. Let's see what this young director would do who's up and coming, rather than let's just rehash it the way it's been going. And so I think there's a real model there that's exciting. It's the best performance of Stallone's career. Like all this, Copland's good too. No, this is the most emotionally engaging, the rawest he's ever been.
You said something though that I'm going to fight is everybody keeps saying, oh, the franchise has run its course. Rocky Balboa is
Rocky Balboa is fantastic.
Great ending to that franchise.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a great
film.
film.
They don't even need to go any further. So to me, this is just like the icing on the cake.
It's a different franchise now, which is cool. It's just got the same character and same world,
Right.
No, this is a very different movie, but he's, they really just nail it. It's very emotionally satisfying, and I just think that there's something we could take from other horror films about getting that next blood who have more to prove.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you have a lot to prove, rather than a journeyman who's just like, all right, another film,
Yeah.
Especially in horror.
Yeah.
I think in horror, more than anything, people, once you're phoning it in, it's game over.
Right.
There's nothing happening. So really worth seeing.
I hope we could talk to a filmmaker that knows about one of these young filmmakers that knows about action and putting it into horror. And
I just want to meet someone who's
stuff.
directed Bruce Willis. I don't give a shit about the rest of it.
All right. Okay, so we are back, and we went out into the hallway and we found the perfect filmmaker to join us for our action / horror discussion. Just happened to be walking by.
That was pretty lucky. And
Very,
the
very
best of all,
lucky.
we got rid of Bekah. Right?
We got rid of
Thank God for that.
Bekah was fainting in the corner, and we just sent her on home and said we're going to talk about slashers now anyway. So she was like, "I'm out."
Yeah.
No, that's not true. She wasn't feeling well. She left. But with us now, long time coming, director Stephen C. Miller.
It's been a while.
It has.
I've been around a while, I
you've
think a
been
little
around.
bit.
Yeah,
Not to be here, what the fuck?
The funny thing is, I thought you were when I started.
Wait, you did the movie Crypto, right?
No.
You did.
Crypto?
No, the
movie Crypt. Yeah.
Yes.
I was like, what the fuck's Crypto?
There you go. We like to.
I'm out.
We like to space it out when people have been on that show because
That's true.
it's people listen to both.
I agree.
Competitive, and
I like
also-
those guys. They're
Yeah.
fun guys.
So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
A lot of stuff we want to talk about. I think I just interviewed you for the Blumhouse website because your new movie Submerged has just come out in VOD,
Right.
limited theatrical.
I saw the trailer last night, by the way, and I thought it looked pretty badass.
It's fun. It's different, I think. You know what I mean? It's a hard movie to make, but it was a fun
Well,
movie.
once they're in the water, I was like, oh, because I was like, the title, I'm like, this is a movie about a limo driving around and partying. Why is this called Submerged? And then boom.
I know that the trailer does take a while to get to the water, but I mean, to be fair, the whole movie doesn't take place in the limo, so it kind of bounces around quite a bit. Very non-linear storytelling. So it starts you in the limo and kind of bounces you around to kind of get you out a little bit because I'm also very claustrophobic as a human being, and so editing it, I was like, man, I got to get out of this limo. Like I couldn't in a dark room, and I'm sitting there. I was like, I got to get us out of this. So I kept taking you out quite a bit, and but I feel like it's a balance.
Okay.
I love disaster movies. I love the Poseidon Adventure. So it's like I love that gimmick where it's like they are trapped underwater. Also, I can't swim, so I'm terrified of that sort of thing.
Oh, my favorite car underwater scene is in the game where
I
that
love
tank
the
scene
game.
goes up and he hasn't got the thing to twist it up. You're like, oh.
I feel like they tried to mimic that in what was it, Unknown, that Liam Neeson one where he goes off the bridge.
They definitely did. No one nailed those kind of beats, but you didn't care as much.
Yeah. But the game, seriously,
game was such a good
I
film.
actually watched that sequence of him trying to get out of that taxi. I don't know how many times just to see what the windows look like when it was wet, because obviously I wasn't really putting people underwater.
Yeah.
So it was like, how do I
You
build
shooting
this?
those in tanks or what?
I actually we literally built a fish tank, like a square fish tank, and then built the limo inside
cool.
this fish tank. And so I shot the movie in chronological order so that way, we could have the water rising throughout the movie. But I tried to get away with a lot of stuff in general by like creating the walls. They're almost like the DeLorean. The walls come up and down. So the camera can move 360 in the limo, and you constantly feel like you're in there, but the camera's moving. You're like, how's the camera getting around? And so walls are coming down as other walls are coming up, and we're going around. It's a dance a lot just to sort of give the movie some movement and not feel like it's just point and shoot. But yeah, so it was pretty fun. And I mean, some of the tricks we pulled to make sure there was water outside because it's not like it's like tinted. It's water outside the windows. Yeah. So that was fun. I won't like totally go there. I guess it might ruin it for you, but it's like maybe I will. So it was, but
just don't say characters you get hurt.
Yeah. No, I mean, but it was a lot of fun to have like we put like fish tanks outside the windows and had like dudes blowing bubbles, so it looks like you're in there. And there's some cool small VFX work for water stuff, but for the most part, everything is 100% practical. So it's pretty crazy movie. Like I was telling Rob, is like we made this movie in like 15 days. So it's not easy.
Yeah, I mean, it looks crazy for that amount of time.
But it's sort of like my thing, I guess. Like nobody wants to give me more than like 17 days to make. I've never had more than 17 days to make a movie.
But the scale looks bigger and bigger with each film.
And that's I do want to go back to the beginning and kind of walk through your career because I don't know a lot about your beginnings, and I'm kind of fascinated by that. But the thing that I always respect about you is you are a machine. You are constantly moving forward. You've got a new project kind of one after the other, consistently working, which is really difficult in this business. And I mean, how does something like Submerged, which seems physically challenging and kind of action oriented, like it seems to me like I think of things in small scale, so I freak out just even thinking of the challenges that you had to face. But every film seems to gradually get a little bit bigger, maybe not as many days, but a little bit bigger budget wise. Yeah. So how did you become like kind of the go-to guy for this, like the indie level action movies?
I don't know. Like with Automaton, which was my first movie, we made that movie in like 9 days. It was a super quick, we probably had like $5,000 to make that movie. So, I think a lot of people looked at that right away and said, well, if he can pull something like this off, then, he doesn't need many more days to do this stuff. But it's like you said, as long as the movies for me continually start to feel bigger in scope and look bigger and the movies start to, gradually get better, then I'm happy. And I just sort of, at this point in my career, I'm just saying I'm just working because I went through like, when I first got here and Automaton sold, I sat for like 2 years with development deals and attached to several things at gigantic studios, wanted me to do these big movies, and then they all died. And I'd been developing stuff for 2 years. And so there's a 2-year gap where I didn't make anything. So after that, it was just like, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Is that where the aggression scale came from?
That's when the aggression scale came from.
I didn't know about it. When I was at South by when that played. Yeah. And I really liked it. And it was the first, I just assumed it was a first time filmmaker because of the kind of movie it was.
Yeah, like it was my second movie.
And the kid and everything. It just had that, but it was very polished and it definitely had all the trappings of someone who can direct action on a limited budget.
Right. Thank you.
I don't know, really. I think that's still my favorite.
It's one of my favorite movies that I've done. I think
because of the protagonist. Because it's not. We'll talk about who you're working with now, but it's not a blockbuster action hero. It's a kid, and is it a sister? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's a kid and a sister. But I also like kids. I like movies with kids. I guess maybe because I grew up with the movies like E.T. and the Goonies and that kind of stuff, watching that stuff, and so it was like, how can I have this kid be a killer? Is that okay?
Kids with adult
material. And that's what we grew up on. I mean,
exactly.
Gremlins is PG in my world. You know what I mean? So it's like, and I sort of like, it's funny, we were talking about our kids. I sort of like try to raise my kids in that sort of world too, that they're sort of growing up with some more adult cartoon materials like I did, because I think, I think it's good. And so, but yeah, those are the kind of movies I grew up on. So those are sort of the movies I gravitate to as a filmmaker, and like the ones I want to make, I guess, are the movies I'd want to see. Yeah. So when it was aggression scale was the next one, and sort of, kicked me into gear of just going, okay, now I'm just going to make a movie, and just keep going until someone says, okay, this guy can have, $100 million, which who knows, but
To do that though, like the actual person, like going from one movie to the next, is it mostly through managers, or is it mostly through like a close producing partner who helps you line up to the next thing?
It's both. It's like, producers, then they introduce me to whoever, and then I keep moving. And sometimes it is the manager and agent world that throw you something that you happen to get, but I rarely get sent stuff that I really really like and I go in and pitch and I'll be like me and, whoever, I rarely get those. It's usually, but people just saying, hey, we liked your movie. We have one that's going, let's go.
And that while you're kind of following that career, do you have time to also write ones that you want to chase yourself when you can, or is it just too busy?
Yeah, right now it's just been too busy. Like right now I'm just shooting stuff. And I also kind of like doing stuff that's not mine, that I didn't write, because I don't feel so attached and I feel like I can go in and sort of create. I don't know. Sometimes when you write something, you get so caught up in what the story is that you don't sort of focus on the visual and how you get it made and make it different. So I kind of like the idea of taking someone else's story that I'm not attached to and saying, okay, I'm going to change this, and this, and the visual is going to be this, and I'm not so attached, even in the edit. So when I get in the edit, I'm not attached to something I've been living with for 3 years. You know what I mean? It's just been 6 months.
Plus, you get to learn a lot because you get to go from film to film on very different types of films.
Yeah, and different writers have different ways of telling a story, and you're always trying to do things differently yourself as a filmmaker. So it's nice to have those different stories and different takes of things, and it's been cool. And so Aggression Scale was sort of my segue into action, but Silent Night was right after Aggression Scale. So it was like I got to do an action horror with Santa Claus, and then it was like, okay, I'll move into more action stuff after that. So it's been crazy in the past couple of years for sure. Yeah.
Now going back to the beginning, to Automaton, where did you come from? Where are you from originally?
So I'm originally from Florida,
right? And then you moved here, like us. You probably grew up on horror movies and just movies in general, and had an interest in this. Was Automaton something? Because I think you mentioned when we last chatted that you were in town, you were working on stuff, but you were frustrating not to work on your own stuff. Is that true? So that was made out of the necessity to do something yourself.
Yeah, I came out here on a basis of, can I get work out here right after film school? And I came out here and was frustrated being on things that I thought were terrible. And I was like, how is anybody getting paid to make this movie? And it is just really frustrating. And so I literally sat down in my at the time I was sleeping on my friend's floor, and I sat on his floor and wrote Automaton. I think it was in 2 days, and said, okay, we're going to go make this movie. And my friend and I said, how are we going to do it? And we called the film school at Full Sail where we went, and they were kind enough to say, hey, you can come down, use our gear, but you only have these 9 days that it's open. And that, by the way, that's in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh shit, well, we got to go. And so we literally just scraped up the money we could with my friend Mark Thalman and scrounged up some money from his parents and me. And then we just rolled out back to Florida, and we shot the movie with all probably wasn't anybody over 21 on the set. It was just all Full Sail kids, all film school kids. And we literally
just framed photos of Darren Bousman everywhere because he's gone there.
You know what? I haven't met Darren. I didn't.
You haven't met Darren?
I met Darren. I'm just saying I didn't know Darren at that time because I think Saw 2 was right about to come out or was coming out at that point. It was 2006. So had it come out yet? I don't remember. So I don't think he was.
It might have at that point, because I think the first one was 2004. Or 5.
Makes sense.
So I can't remember. Around the time that it was about.
I don't think he was crazy there yet, but I know he's now. And so, so we just made it. And then, then I came back to LA with the movie, and I slept in my car and my friend's couches for over a year, finishing the movie, getting help on Craigslist and all kinds of nonsense. And then, got lucky enough to sell it to the Weinsteins, but it was a process.
Crazy. So that was part of several films that were under the Dimension Extreme banner, which I remember.
Yeah, it was the first movie under the Dimension Extreme banner, which was crazy.
How did that happen? Because how did you even get on their radar? Because I thought that was actually kind of a cool period because, DVD was still a big thing.
It was a huge thing at that time.
Things that were a little gorier, a little, a little bit more wild than the average horror movie. Like Inside was one of the Dimension Extreme titles. Storm Warning, which I like.
We're actually paired with that movie quite a bit. Inside.
Oh, really?
It's like us as Automaton and Inside is like a double feature at Walmart half the time.
That's crazy. So how do you get on the radar of somebody like the Weinsteins with this first little movie that you did on your own?
It just took a lot of weird meetings that I encountered, one being Brad Miska, and it was like hanging out with him at first, and Brad really liked the movie, and so Brad sort of started passing it around to people, and not really passing the movie around, but passing the word around, saying, hey, you got to check this movie out. And then I met a few other people like J.R. Young at Ghost House, Jeff Katz, who was at Fox at the time. So it first got, at first it was Fox Atomic who was wanting the movie because they wanted to buy it and then just remake it. They wanted to do a bigger version of the movie. And I was like, yes, let's go do that. And then Fox Atomic died. And so, and so then it was Ghost House who was like, okay, we'll take it. And then the Weinsteins decided that they heard, hey, there's this movie out there that's sort of floating around. You know how that goes when all of a sudden studios are saying whatever. So it was like Lionsgate wanted it, and then Weinsteins wanted it. So it was just this kind of three-way of people saying they wanted the movie. And like you said, Ghost House hadn't even bought movies yet. They were looking for their label as well, just like Dimension Extreme was. So we kind of just went with the best offer. But I also think Dimension Extreme did a great job with the movie as far as the marketing, the artwork. I thought they did a great job with everything. And like you said, it was like the last of the DVD bubble, like right before it bursts. So it really did become sort of like this really cool cult phenomenon type thing for me anyway. Like my first movie, and I have all these people saying, hey, they like this movie or they hated it, which is cool too. So it's like, I sort of like both spectrums of it.
Can you even tell how your films do now?
No.
Like, I mean, when you put these things out, do you even know who's watching and how it's going?
The only thing I know is if people hit me up on Twitter or social media of some kind and they tweet at me, hey, we really like this, or, because I try not to read any kind of reviews or anything because it doesn't really matter to me. But with Automaton, it was a lot different because it was like, you could go to the store and see it was sold out, or you could go to Blockbuster and it wasn't there. Yeah. And so it was really strange. Now it's just, I just sort of, okay, it's on a screen. Does everybody else see it that's on the screen? It's up there.
It's such a weird thing.
It's on Netflix.
For nothing,
you just don't know. And so I have no way of knowing. I don't know how the studios have ways of knowing all this stuff. It's so crazy.
They're keeping it from us, whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
So you said before, you do this little movie, comes out through Dimension Extreme, and then you're developing stuff. And here's the frustrating part. So obviously you feel like, I'm gonna make another movie right away. And then 2.5 years goes by because everything gets developed and then dropped and this and that. Meanwhile, to the outside world, it looks like, oh, what's this guy doing? It's always that frustrating thing that I see.
Yeah, it just looks like you're not making movies.
Yeah. So what did you learn from that whole experience?
I just learned I got to make movies. No, that was it. Like, because you're only as good as your last movie as a filmmaker, and so 2 years later, you're just pretty much a new filmmaker again. And so because the way these studios is such a revolving door, that all the people you had met that loved your movie, that 2 years later, those guys don't even exist at those studios anymore. They've moved on, they're starting other companies, they're doing other things. And so you sort of have to just all of a sudden rework your way up and start climbing the ladder again, which is why aggression scale was so important for me, because I was like, okay, I got to make a statement with the movie that, hey, I'm not just sitting around doing nothing on purpose. It's not like I don't want to make movies. It's just, I was literally developing movies that were, really big budget movies. So it was kind of disheartening for me when I had to not be able to do that and try to find, a movie like Aggression Scale, which again was like, $100,000 movie in 12 days. It's just,
and ironically, because now you'd be so much more ready to make a big movie.
You know what? That's also something I think I've learned a lot for myself, is that I'm really glad that I waited, because I think if I was thrown into an $80 or $90 million movie, right after Automaton, I don't know, in all honesty, I think I just would have fucked it up. I just don't know, because you're just so eager, and then the things you learn from making these movies, whether they're bad or good or so-so, is just you learn how to get better. I watch my movies and just figure out, okay, and I do actually listen to critics that kind of say things to me, because then I'm like, okay, great, I know how to kind of work on the next thing. And, I like to learn. I like to get better, and if that means people are saying, hey, we don't like certain things, whatever, that's fine.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Yeah, and also if you make a lot of different types of movies, it's cool, because if somebody likes one of them, then you're doing, then no one's ever going to like them all.
No, I agree. That's the thing, is you can never please anybody anyway. So it's if I can make movies in all kinds of genres, great. I was supposed to make a comedy last year. I would definitely do things like that. And then, I got the Bruce thing. So it was I just sort of had to choose.
What was the one? It's funny. I have a funny memory, because I was, I swear this is true. I was standing across from Alicia Silverstone at the Elves Fair and tweeting something to the thing like, holy shit, my kid is making an elf mask next to Alicia Silverstone. And I still find her attractive in her way.
She's great.
But it was the exact second on Twitter, where you were, was that Submerged? She was going to
No, she literally, there was a comedy called Who Gets the Dog? Okay. And it was really funny. And it's obviously the titles, couple breaks up and who gets the dog? It's super silly, super funny. But I was at a point where Submerged had taken a year to edit, and it was taking time. And I was like, okay, I just want to get something. And I was like, I want to do something completely different. And so I was like, I'll just go make this comedy. But as fate would have it, it was not the case. So it was literally got sucked into Extraction. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's what. But anyway, it was just funny timing, because I remember looking on the other tweet at the exact moment was, "Hey, I'm making a film with Alicia. I'm gonna make it."
And she's great, by the way. She's super funny, really
cool.
intelligent.
Yeah. That's
really intelligent.
I just like to think of her as Crush.
Man, I forgot about Crush for Batgirl.
But I want to hear, like, because it's such an interesting path. It's about relationships, right? Like, So you mentioned Brad early on in
Brad was a big influence.
and then you made another film with him at one point, right?
Under the Bed, which was 2 years later.
Was that under the banner of Bloody Dis? No, what was that under?
No, it eventually became under. Man, what is that media called?
The Collective, or
no, it wasn't. It was man, I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. All of a sudden, I'd have to look it up. We'll figure it out in a minute. But I think it's Exhilarator.
Okay.
So, but actually, I made Under the Bed before the aggression scale.
Mm-hmm.
So I shot Under the Bed first, and then Travis Stevens came on the set of Under the Bed and was like, "Hey, man, this is crazy that you're, what you're doing here for this amount of time and money." He's like, "I'm literally going to go make aggression scale. We don't have a director. We need somebody to go do it."
I forgot Travis was involved in that.
That's right. That's actually the first time I think I saw his name.
Yeah.
First time I recognized the name of, who's this guy? And then maybe saw an interview when I was at South by.
Yeah. And so he just came by and hung out, and we hit it off. And he was like, "Look, I'm going to go make this movie." And I told Brad, I was like, "Look, I'll edit Under the Bed when I get back." And so I literally, the day after I shot Under the Bed, I think it was 2 or 3 days after that, I was on a plane to New York to make Aggression Scale. So I literally made those two movies back to back, and I was literally editing them at the same time. I would edit one for a couple nights, and I would take a break. And I would start editing Under the Bed, then I would take a break.
And when you say editing, do you work with an editor, or you do the editing?
I edit it.
Okay, interesting.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
So like it was a fun, interesting process to edit two movies at the same time.
Yeah, interesting. And so that script was just like, I for some reason, it has the feeling that it was your thing. It has that feeling. Aggression Scale has that feeling it's your project. You know what I mean? So that's cool that you made that your own.
Yeah, it was literally just a script that he had. I think he was talking to like 2 or 3 guys at the time. And so I just came in and said, "Hey, look, we can make this really fun and different." And we had talked about a few people and Ray Wise and that kind of thing. And so we were able to get it, which is cool.
I love Derek. Yeah, Derek. He's really fun.
Derek's awesome, man. Yeah. He is so funny. I was surprised how funny Derek was, because a lot of that stuff's improv. Like a lot of that stuff for me anyway, I'm like an off the page kind of guy. Like I like them just sort of just go and see what happens. And so a lot of that stuff in the woods where he's hurt and he's like, "We got to take a break here." And it's like all improv, because I was just like, "Dude, this is getting a little too serious." I wanted it to be serious, but I didn't want it to go too serious, and I felt like it was a little too much. So I was trying to keep it a little light, which maybe is something I try to do a little bit anyway.
I haven't seen it in a while, but doesn't he say something about like, "Listen, man, I got a wife and a mistress to get home to. I've got a wife and a girlfriend." There's one joke that I thought was so hilarious.
That's totally him. Again, that's just like him.
How he's got both a wife and a girlfriend to get back home to. So like
an interesting story on that movie too is the sister, Fabi. She was great in the movie, but in the scene in the bedroom where she runs, she's got to open up the window to get out, and she cuts her hand and stuff like that, and she has to wrap it up. That's real. Ooh. Like that was not supposed to happen. She really put her hand through the glass and sliced her hand up and had to go have major surgery that day. And so we were all sitting there like, how are we going to work this? What are we going to do? And a huge thing to our writer, who just came in and said, well, what if we just implement it and make it a part of the movie? And we did. And obviously I had to ask for her permission to show the footage of her hand literally going through. But it worked. So that's what we did.
That's crazy, man. What were some of the? I mean, not that I want to dwell on what could have been and all that, but for a long time, I know you were attached to like Motel Hell.
Yeah.
Way back then,
the project.
Funny enough, Craig Perry just called me. We literally Craig
most likely will be our next guest. Too.
Yeah, probably our next.
Talk to Craig about it. Me and Craig talked about it. Well, anyway, we'll talk about Motel Hell first. Was like, I love Motel Hell. It's one of my favorite, not favorite, but like one of those movies, like you go down to the video store and you're like, what is that? And I was like, I have to rent that. And so I remember renting it and just being like, this is the most fucked up movie I've ever seen in my life. And so, when I went in to pitch for the movie at MGM and Craig Perry and all that stuff, it was a great time. And the script's really good.
Pitching the same tone?
I was pitching a different kind of tone.
Yeah, I can't imagine that somebody pulling off that exact tone.
Yeah, I was pitching a different kind of tone because I don't know if like that. It's horror comedy and it's wacky, and like I was pitching something more visceral that had a lighter tone, but something visceral. Yeah. And so they really liked that. The script that they had was really cool, and it was a cool script because it sort of harkened back to the original a lot. MGM failed, I guess. They ran out of money, whatever happened to MGM, and then they started to come back. And it's funny. Craig Perry called me, I don't know, a month ago and said, "Hey, you still want to go do Motel Hell? I think we're going to go do it." And at this time, it's just not the movie, and Craig knows this, and I love Craig, but had this movie like 5 years ago, but me now, I just like, I wanted to try to stay away from doing another remake or movie that was, because I did Silent Night.
How did the remake work though? Like, if Craig's got it, does it mean he has the rights to the property, or he just has the current script and has to still pitch?
Craig has the rights to the property.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Gotcha. So then I assume he, would be going around and figuring out who's going to do it now. But he was really gracious about it. And me and Craig have been trying to find a movie, and we still have a few that we're looking at doing together. But he's just one of those guys that loves horror films and gets them. Yeah. And so it was really hard for me to say no to Craig, but at the same time, like, I feel like I got several other things that are swirling. So it's like I'm trying to steer more towards the action thriller stuff. And if it's going to be a horror film, I think I really want to do something that's really personal. And Motel Hell would be personal, but it's not like my movie. It's like it's been out there.
Right.
Well,
and also remake is always risky.
It's always risky.
And I'm because when I heard your name attached to that one, because this is going back a few years now with Motel Hell, but I felt like that was a period where that's all anyone was getting director-wise was a remake. So was that like pretty much all you were meeting on at that point?
Yeah, or? I mean, look, it was. I know it was like, I remember meeting Wes on Last House on the Left, and like meeting for everything you can think. You know what I mean? Over at the Weinsteins, they had it was like The Crow, it was Children of the Corn, it was like it was
did
just
you
like,
get close to any of those big ones?
Yeah, it was always between me and whoever. It was like it just felt like it was like always the second guy. But and then it just felt like everything was remakes. I mean, there was, Prom Night at that point. I remember I got Prom Night script sent to me. I was like, and so there was a lot of that stuff in the 2009-ish to 2012. It was just like remake central. That was just seemed.
Do you
like
any of them?
getting.
I'm curious which one.
I love Last House on the Left.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job.
I thought that movie is emotional. It's energetic. It's fucking visceral.
Good casting,
good cast.
Like, they cast everyone. It's good.
I mean, it's just one of those movies that's shot beautifully, and I think it has the right tone for the movie.
It's what's great movie. I love that the first trailer they put out had that acoustic version of Sweet Child of Mine cut to it, which I thought was so perfect.
Yeah, I thought that movie was done really well, and I really enjoyed that movie. Yeah, it's one of the ones I really like.
I can't believe you like the Hitcher remake. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with you,
Brian
sir?
Collins.
I remember I was in the theater with Brian when we watched that movie. I feel like that was one of our, what was that thing called where we were all hanging out watching horror movies? It was
Fright Club?
Fright Club or something. Yeah, we were all hanging out watching movies, but that was definitely one we saw together.
I watched the Hitcher remake with him.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, God.
So
keeps pushing.
It's interesting. I wonder what, if Platinum Dunes did come back into the game, I wonder if they'd changed kind of the approach, because it was still at a time where big budgets were being thrown at these.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'd go, okay, actually, what if we did it just for like $1.5 or $2 million?
They would never do that.
I don't see them ever being able to do that. Yeah.
They would never, ever do that.
Unfortunately, because I think they would actually get some really cool quality stuff. I think you get some young filmmakers that are ready to do something like that haven't had a chance, and give them a chance. It might be really cool.
We keep saying that about Friday the 13th. It's just like, don't be precious. Let's just make lots of them.
Yeah.
Let's just make one
just
a
keep
year
pumping.
and see what happens.
Yeah. With Friday the 13th, we've said this before, and we did an episode 2-3 weeks ago. It's like, they're just overthinking it.
Yeah, no, I don't understand why they can't just let it roll. Just let it roll. Just go.
It won't take much to satisfy us.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think they just can't decide if it's just like found footage. Is it not found footage? Like, how do we do this movie?
Snow.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. Just do it. You know, it doesn't matter. Like, if you try one, it doesn't work. Okay, we'll try to get something else on the next one. I don't know.
What are the franchises when you're young? Like, I mean, we're going to go back to like the kind of films you love.
Let's start at the beginning, because what we love hearing, I mean, we're all of the same age. We're all of the video generation. And it's so much fun to hear about how, what turned you into a horror fan, whether it's which movie it was that you grabbed off the shelf. And, so what was it for you? What was the beginning of getting into the genre?
The first movie that I remember watching in my friend's basement was Dead Alive. And so I remember sitting there being like,
sir, I'm a Kiwi, Sir Peter.
But I'm surprised you didn't correct him and say Brain Dead.
Well,
Brain Dead, you always do.
Yeah.
I let it go because he said it was his first.
It was the first thing I saw, because it was that box art, of the guy with his mouth open, and it was the little guy inside. It was just.
Don't you miss him?
Oh, man.
Don't you miss
I miss
PJ doing that PJ?
I miss that shit for sure.
Want him
in
back.
general, like just movies like
Crazy Gore.
Crazy Gore. I also mix box art. I miss not even maybe not box art, but cool posters. But anyway, so Dead Alive was the first thing I remember watching in a basement, which continued when my friend put in Evil Dead 2, and so we just sort of watched. It was like a weekly thing where I'd go to my friend's house, and it was like that Evil Dead 2, and then it was Nightmare, and it was Friday, and it was so I grew up watching those kind of movies, and then we sort of went down and, oh, what's this on the shelf is, Cheerleader Massacre or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, we're just trying to find whatever had the coolest box art, and we were into it. But I think one of the earliest things my dad showed me was The Exorcist. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the first things I remember watching with my dad and being like, my dad, this tough dude, and squealing like not even just like a little girl. I remember looking at him going, okay, I think that's what I want to do. If my dad can freak out, I want to do something.
I want to make my dad
squeal. Yeah, it's sort of like that's exactly what happened for me. So that was probably the movie that turned me into filmmaking. The other ones were just movies I was like, man, this is just fun to watch, and with my friends. And
did you ever see anything that was too much? I always love asking that now because after that Brian Yesna thing, I'm like, is there something that's too far?
Yeah, I mean, look, the first Last House on the Left was too much for me. Yeah. I was really like, this is brutal. Like,
especially at a certain age.
I think I was like 9, and I was like, ugh, what is happening right now?
Because there's no entertainment.
It's just
not
zero.
About entertaining you.
You are just getting pummeled. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just about pummeling you. And so, I remember sitting watching the original, just being like, this is way too much for me. Because Dead Alive is fun. It's like, it's just shooting shit and blood's going everywhere. And you're just like,
I love that you saw it before Evil Dead.
Yeah,
it's clearly, his influence is Reanimator and Evil Dead.
100%.
So it's fun to see it the reverse.
You're right. Actually, I did see them reverse. So that's very interesting.
Kind of fun. Yeah. But Peter Jackson was a hell of a. I think I posted last week a photo where I saw him, and it brought me back. Like, it was him standing in the room with blood and guts everywhere, and bodies, and he's just standing there, and he's so young looking, and you're like, oh man, that guy is just like was having so much fun back then.
Your Bad Taste costume is still
Bad Taste. But yeah, I mean, for me, like, Bad Taste is like, I mean, Brain Dead is a much better movie, but Bad Taste is it just like has that commitment of somebody who is going to get something done no matter what.
Just to fuck the world on that.
I know,
movie.
it's so fun,
so cool. Like, I mean, I always wonder if he had fun making The Frighteners. You know what I mean? Because it's a crazy movie too. It's like, for a studio movie, that is a crazy movie.
A great Jeff Combs performance. I mean, he's kick ass.
It's kick ass, man. And so I always wondered, was he having as much fun in that movie, or was it a chore for him? You know what I mean?
That really does feel like something that would have been a great pilot. That is a show right now,
especially on Netflix right now. People would eat that show.
I think that one was a chore, because that killed him for years.
I don't doubt it.
Experience in making The Frighteners. That's why if you look at his filmography, there's a giant gap after that.
And I feel like it's because the studio almost buried the movie. They were almost like, oh, this movie.
And he did really well in I remember, because in New Zealand it was a big deal, because he's making this American film here in New Zealand, and then it was #1 in Brazil. So we're like, hey, it's #1, and not the rest of the world.
I haven't seen any of the behind the scenes yet, but I mean, this is the days of Laserdisc.
Yeah,
so I remember my friend telling me, oh, the Laserdisc has got this extensive behind the scenes, and it's like, how and this explains a lot now that I'm thinking about it. How there's like a lot of kind of CG, whatever.
That was pretty early.
Apparently in the behind the scenes, he spent like so much money building like animatronic ghost dogs and like doing things as practical as possible, and none of it fucking worked.
None of it made it.
None of it worked. So that's why they had to kind of do things CGI, which explains why he's so reliant on it these days, I guess.
Yeah. But the ghosts themselves looked great. It was death that's like Apache a little bit.
Yeah, but everything else was pretty cool. I mean, I also wonder if it's like the American audience couldn't handle seeing Marty McFly in that role. You know what I mean?
I thought he was really good. But
he's really good, but it was only like the second movie after Back to the Future 3 came out. I was
Probably should have been Eric Stoltz. Bring it back around there.
Let's get rid of him, put it back in. But you never know like what the studio thought when they tested it. But it's interesting to see, because it is a fun. I mean, the opening of that movie is really cool.
Great. Yeah, it's great. And actually, it's kind of tonally sort of Ghostbusters-esque, but I remember seeing it when it came out. Then it gets kind of dark.
It's got 2 serial killers.
Yeah,
it gets real dark.
It's a lot darker than I thought it was going to be.
It gets real dark towards the end of the movie.
Jake Busey is really fun.
Madman. Madman.
And it definitely, what's her name? Cujo Mom.
Yeah.
One of her last great roles.
She's great.
She's just great in that film.
Yeah.
She was bad shit.
I know you guys want me. I want to revisit it now.
Yeah.
And you mentioned it. It's December. I want to talk a little bit about Silent Night, because this is the time that we watch these types of movies. And again, I'm sure people are going to break this one out again. I'm going to break it out. I haven't seen it since it came out.
I haven't either.
Initially. I have a lot of questions about it, but how did it happen?
Yeah.
Because I feel like Silent Night, Deadly Night was one of those titles that during that remake craze of the 2009 era, people were trying to do. But what's interesting about yours, and I'm curious if this is how it came to you, it's a remake in name only. I mean, there's no characters. You're not following the same plot line. It's a totally different movie. And in that
grandpa?
sense, there's no grandpa. And
He's like there, just not really.
And in that sense, I like that because then it's a remake sequel. Like it could just be a part.
Could be its own universe.
Exactly. It could be just part 6 if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
So how did that project come to you? And was it a blank slate? Was it, we don't need to do exactly what the first movie was?
No, interestingly enough, I was attached to Silent Night, Deadly Night remake when it was at the Weinstein Company.
Okay.
And so I forget who else was on it, but it was the Weinsteins and they had me attached. This was like 2009. And the script was completely different. It was basically Chopping Mall. It was Santa in a mall. And I loved it because it was
sounds really fun.
It was so rad.
Yeah.
I was like, this is awesome. Santa going around killing teenagers in a mall. This is badass.
Can we reverse time and just make that too?
And it was a great script. It was really fun, really cool. But then the rights got all disastered. Nobody could figure out who. I can't remember. It was like a big disaster with the rights, and so it just kind of went away. And then I went and made some movies, and then it came back, but it was under different producers who had finally gotten the rights. There was a different script, and I read it. And some of the first things they said to me was like, "This is Seven with Santa Claus," and I read it, and I was like, "No, this is not Seven with Santa Claus." This is still a pretty cool movie, but this isn't Silent Night, Deadly Night. And I said that pretty forward right off the bat. It was like, this is not Silent Night, Deadly Night. And so, but they were like, we want to try to get some of the original in there. And I was like, well, there's not really a lot of room for your script to have it's a cop, you're trying to find the killer. It's not really Silent Night, Deadly Night. And so, anyway, I did a little work on it. I pretty much revamped all the kill sequences in the movie. I tried to add a little piece of Grandpa who gave us that quick story, like just the antler kills. Then there's the, there's small homages like Garbage Day. I tried to throw in something for Garbage Day for part 2, but like it's not a remake. You know what I mean? It's very much its own universe, its own world.
It could have been called Christmas Slasher.
It could have been called Christmas Slasher.
And it would have made more.
But when they decided to call it Silent Night, I also thought that was a bad idea. If they're saying it's a remake, they should have called it Silent Night, Deadly Night, because I think it would have gotten more attention when it got released, because when it was released, limited theatrical, it was like 30 or 40 cities. And I remember going and looking at, the screen, and it was like just Silent Night up there. And I was like, well, nobody's going to give a shit. Nobody cares. Nobody knows that that's a horror movie. So why would anybody go see it? If it said Silent Night, Deadly Night, I think you immediately go, okay, I'm going to go.
Yeah,
watch
people
that
forget.
movie.
Like, I saw some footage. I can't remember which disc it was on, but of the original Silent Night, Deadly Nights release, of all the protests.
Oh my God.
And Ebert and people like that just boycotting this movie.
Yeah.
And it's ruining Christmas for all the children. You're like, that's when movies could make a difference. Like,
It had
fuck with people. And,
if I remember correctly, wasn't it outgrossing Nightmare on Elm Street that first weekend? It was outgrossing Nightmare until it got pulled.
But they pulled it really fast.
Yeah, they pulled it really fast.
Yeah.
And so it had a lot of, protest against it, and I went in making this one not expecting that at all, to be honest, and there was nothing like that. You just feel like today's world is desensitized anyway.
It's
like,
too much stuff.
There's too much stuff. So I really was going, okay, I'm just going to make this movie really fun, really nasty, and make the death scenes overly.
The kills are the thing I remember. I haven't seen it for so long. The kills are the thing I remember.
That's exactly what my headspace was like, okay, I can, it's not going to win any Oscars. Let's just go in and make this movie as loud, as crazy.
In Romania, you won the Romania.
I'm there. I was there, dude.
But I will ask you, because I'm very fascinated, because he's one of the best ranketeurs on Earth. Malcolm McDowell, what was he like as an actor? Does he still get the joy from performing, or is he just like showing up to work?
No, he is not that guy.
That's awesome.
That's what I love about Malcolm. Is like when I first, it's funny, we hadn't cast a lead yet, and I was already in Winnipeg is where we shot, and he was staying at the hotel I was in, and he was having breakfast. And I just went down to Malcolm and sat down and said, dude, there's this movie. I know he was doing Home Alone 4 or 5 or something at the time.
Geez,
there's some TV Home Alone.
Oh.
And I was like, man, you would be awesome in this. And we just had a conversation. And then the producers got him. And the next thing you know, he's like staying there and he's going to make the movie with us. And he just loves movies. He still loves it. Yeah. We hung out when he's there on set, it was a joy. He's a blast. We had so much fun. And he was just one of those guys that would talk about everything. And I'm a huge Stanley Kubrick fan too. So it was like, I wanted to know about all that shit. And he was just like all about talking about it. And so, especially Clockwork, he was just like clockwork. But he was a great, great guy. Loves movies.
Yeah, he's such a fun guy to talk to. Like I've interviewed him a few times with on like press junkets and stuff. Yeah, and I think I told the story before. But like it was on Halloween 2, the Rob Zombie one, and he comes in and like he sits down, he's all jovial and stuff. And the first question's like, how are you in Halloween 2? I thought you died in Halloween 1. And he's like, I'll be in Halloween 3, love. That was like the first thing he said. So, he just seems like such a fun guy. And
he is. He had a blast making the movie because I just was like, look, man, you just need to have fun with it. Don't be serious. Let's just be crazy and wacky and let's just try to make a movie that people are laughing at. But at the same time, like, oh shit, did that really just happen? So that's it.
Now, I have one specific question about Silent Night. We're gonna get real here for a minute. Where did you shoot it again?
We shot in Winnipeg.
Was it super cold there?
Freezing, but it wasn't snowing.
Exactly. Okay, so that was my question. How much time did you have to shoot this movie?
I had 15 days.
Okay, so when you get presented with this, you're making Silent Night. You've got 15 days. You got to crank this thing out as best as you can. Does that come up where, because there's one sequence that I remember, like I liked the movie, but the one sequence that bothered me was, I think it was the girl running out, and you're like, wait, it's like everyone's wearing these giant coats
when she's naked through the tree farm.
Tree farm naked, and it's supposed to be winter, and everywhere else in the movie everyone's wearing like giant coats and hats and stuff, and I was just like, I just want to see snow.
And it was the problem was it was bright when I got there. It was snow covered. And it took us another month and a half to get the movie finally going because they had money problems. And then finally it started going. And so by the time they got it going, it was still cold, but it was not snowing. There's still grass now. And so when she got out to that tree farm, the original, because I wrote that piece of it, which was that she gets naked through a tree farm and all that. So I wrote that piece of it. And it was my initial vision was covered in snow, this girl freezing as she's running through. But we couldn't play it like that because it was obviously not snowing and there was no snow. Because if you actually watch the whole movie as a whole, I shoot everything at a low angle. So you don't see the ground because the sky looked freezing. But if I showed the ground, you could tell there's no snow. So 90% of the movie is looking up like this, so I don't see the ground. That was the only place I had to show.
Did you ever try to ask for fake snow, or did they just say no way?
Yeah, I tried to ask for fake snow like every day. Yeah, can we get snow over here? It was like this little patch.
It's funny. I need to apologize to them for years. The thing I said was wrong with that. I'm like, I just wish they hadn't shot that film in L.A.
Yeah,
I thought it was L.A. I was like, can't they have gone to a fucking place?
We were in where it was freezing cold, and they were and the effects guys would bring me like this little patch of snow, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Is it one patch that's just sitting right there? And then I was like, I just can't do that. So it was literally just all right, well, and they're like, well, you got to go, you got to shoot it. And I'm like, well, I have to, I guess, but I'm telling you, I went to the links at one point and at the end post, I was visually trying to put in VFX snow, and it just wasn't working at all.
If it makes you feel better, Silent Night, Deadly Night 4. Also, no snow.
No snow.
Of course, it's shot in L.A.
Yeah, it's a little disheartening sometimes, even when I watch, and I'm like, there's some of the stuff would have looked really great with it snowing, because I love any kind of atmosphere, and so it's just one of those things.
I really do. I agree. I think some things that can make all the difference. Like if that had just CGI snow right now, it might just be a totally different experience.
You probably would be right, and you probably get better CGay snow right now.
You probably would. Yeah,
probably
work.
in
A better place. Yeah, that's crazy. That's funny.
What did I'm most curious what each film like does it lead to the next? Have you been, has someone seen Silent Night and then that led to what came next? Submerged?
Submerged was after that.
So, does each movie lead to the next, or is it a different situation every time?
It's almost a different situation every time. With Under the Bed and Aggression Scale was sort of one movie led to the next because Travis came to set. Silent Night, it did lead from Aggression Scale because Aggression Scale played at South by Southwest and they were there and they loved it and they were like, hey,
really
come make
reviews.
Silent
I remember
Night.
being there and feeling like that was one of the most buzzed about.
Yeah, it did. Played really well. So it definitely got me Silent Night. But after Silent Night, Submerged was just because Scott Malam, who I'm really good friends with, who wrote Mother's Day, wrote Submerged, and he was like, "Hey man, I have this script. Let's go try to make this movie." And so we did. But that sort of got put together. It was sort of right place, right time. One of the guys who helped finance the movie, also helped sell Automaton Transfusion, so it was sort of like all at the right place at the right time. So
and when you married Bruce Willis's daughter, because I assume that's the only way you can get. I'm just but so tell us about that, because anyone who's ever watched Armageddon with a tear in their eyes, Brian Collins,
yes,
is like, I don't know. Bruce is just such an interesting like figure in our culture. You know what I mean? Like, I just think he's fascinating.
He's an icon, man.
And you're 2 back-to-back movies, with this dude, and he was working. Like he's like working, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of like Nick Cage, like doing roles.
He's doing roles.
But tell us about working with him and how that relationship starts and what it's like. I guess I'm always curious, like what it's like as a director who you start working with your friends as actors, and you work with some like semi-professional actors, and suddenly you're working with like an icon. Is it the same kind of relationship? relationship, or
it's completely different. It's a lot different because when you're working with your friends, or even like Malcolm, you become friends on set. It's a different kind of vibe, and then meeting Bruce is a whole different scenario because Die Hard was one of my favorite movies as a kid. So it was like John McClane is on set, you know what I mean? So it was very different. And plus they didn't let me see Bruce until the first day of shooting. So it wasn't like I hung out with Bruce for weeks beforehand or got to talk to him. It was just like, he's coming, he'll see you when he gets there. Like, okay, I can't talk to Bruce. Like, what is the deal here?
Don't talk between takes. The Bruce will be there.
But he, when he did get there, it was great. And we had a good time. I mean, as I guess a young director dealing with Bruce, you've read all the horror stories, you read up on all the things about how am I going to deal with Bruce because, Kevin or this or whoever didn't have a good time. And so I was super nervous, to be honest, because this is my first Lionsgate. It was my first.
Which one is this called?
It's called Extraction.
And neither of them have come out yet, right?
Extraction hits December.
Okay, cool.
So it was my first it was my first big action movie. It's straight action movie. And so with Bruce and so it was very nerve wracking. Then hear all these stories and think, is he going to come in here and just roll over me? And what do I do if he tries to roll over me? You know what I mean? So it was a lot of thinking.
Did he get any say over you being the filmmaker?
Bruce had to approve me. Yeah. So that was awesome. You know what I mean? Because I was like a week of sweating and Lionsgate saying, we like you. And Emmett Furley saying, we love you. And then, it was, well, if Bruce doesn't like you, sorry. So it was Bruce deciding that he would go with me. And then, our first Extraction, our first movie was very interesting because me and Bruce were figuring each other out. You know what I mean? And Bruce definitely vetted me out the first couple days. It was like, does this guy know how to make an action movie? Does he know what he's doing? So there was a lot of, he wanted to do his thing. And I was like, no, I want to do my thing. And there was a lot of push and pull right off the bat. But, I think once I wouldn't say I put my foot down as much as I was just like, I guess I did. I didn't know. And he sort of like, I get it. Okay. You know what you're doing. And I think he still was sort of like not sure. We finished the movie. We came into post. He came into ADR to watch the movie. And by this point we'd had a few conversations back and forth because we kind of hung out and stuff like that again. And so he came to ADR. He sat in ADR and he's like, I'm going to check out. Let me see my scene because it's the opening scene of the movie. And he's got, some other stuff going on. So he's the big opening though. And so he watches the opening and he, 45 minutes later, he's still sitting there. And I'm just like, oh man, what's he doing? He's just watching the movie. And so he's like, oh shit, we got to do ADR. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, dude, this is really fun. And so 2 days later, I got a call from him saying, hey, I'm going to do a Marauders in Cincinnati, and I want you to do it. And I was just, I'm going to make Marauders.
Did you know he's Butch in Pulp Fiction? Because you talking about it right there got me really excited because he's Butch in Pulp Fiction.
He's a lot of fun, man. He loves to be, he loves to do action. You know what I mean? So Extraction's great because he's action heavy. Marauders is a different role for him because he's not so action heavy. He's a bank manager and he's got to play an actual role. And so he's not the hero. So it's different for him. But we had a blast working on both movies. Extraction, I think he just kicks some ass in that movie.
Is Marauders done, or are you editing?
I'm literally left the edit today to come hang out with you guys. But yeah, nice. It's a really cool looking movie, bank heist type thriller. And so I think Dave Bautista's in it. He does really great. Chris Maloney, who I love, and so Adrian Grenay's in it too. And Adrian does really well.
Yeah, we're looking forward to seeing him in Trash Fire by Ricky Bates. It sounds like that's going to be kind of wild. So was your wife cool with you being with Bruce's daughter? Because I still think you're casting some voodoo spell. I mean, now would you do a third thing with Bruce if it came up? I mean, is he that kind of guy where you're like, you can't say no to Bruce?
I don't know what we're talking about. Yeah, we're talking about what we're doing in March. So, I mean, he wants, it's literally been a, hey, he kind of just, it's like he attaches to one guy that he likes and sort of just goes. I would love to do bigger, more like whole movies with Bruce because Extraction and Marauders have Bruce, but it's not like Bruce's movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? Right. So the next thing we're talking about is like a Bruce movie. And so
that Die Hard 6 might come. You never know.
Dude, we talked about Die Hard on the set quite a bit and we talked about it a few times. And so, I think they have a different way they're trying to go right now with
Motel Hellhard. Next to two, he could make fritters. I can see it.
Yeah. Dude, Bruce,
Well, he's doing Misery on stage, right?
He is.
And you ask him about that? Is he having fun?
Oh yeah, he was having a blast. He was he hadn't started. He had just done rehearsals and stuff like that when we were shooting Marauders. But, it was, I saw a huge difference from Extraction to Marauders. And not that Bruce is ever a bad actor, but like in Marauders, he was just, more present and more like in the moment for a role. And like, I feel like it was because, you know, he really had to do some stuff for, you know, on stage.
I always think back at like Moonlighting, he was really sharp with dialogue, really funny. I always assumed he would have gone to be kind of more like a Robert Downey Jr., smart ass.
Right.
And he's a smart ass for sure.
Yeah, he is.
But he's definitely, since the hair was shaved, he became like pure action in a way.
Yeah, you know what? In Marauders, like I begged them to let me keep his hair. Because Extraction, they're like the Bruce with the hair shaved and all that stuff. Yeah. And they actually let me keep his hair in Marauders, which I think he looks amazing like that in Marauders. But in Extraction, he's really funny because the movie, I love action movies, but with Extraction, I was like, I really love like Lethal Weapon, and I love those kind of action movies too. So Extraction has a little bit of a Lethal Weapon vibe going on, where it's kind of fun and kind of silly, but huge crazy action. And Bruce is kind of funny. He's pretty cool.
Now, was that the most technically difficult thing you've done, or was Submerged still the hardest just because of the tank stuff?
No, I think Extraction is really hard. I mean, because we had so much action that, you know, I shot that movie again in like 17 days. So it was so much action to get through every day. And I'm a huge hand-to-hand combat guy. Like I designed these fight scenes for hand-to-hand combat and kind of brought in like an Asian fusion to the mix. So it was like really kung fu heavy mixed with the martial arts and, you know, and some other kind of fighting styles. And so to do that, you know, was really tough because it's not like I had prep with any of my actors to fight beforehand. So it was literally like I would do scheduling. So fights would happen, you know, 1 week. So they'd have a few days in between their other shoots to work with the stunt coordinator. And by the next day they'd get there and they'd have to know the fights. And Kellen Lutz, who stars in Extraction, I mean, the guy must have like a photographic memory because a lot of the stuff I was like, look, I'm going to shoot one take. It's going to sit there and you got to do it all, you know, because I love that. You know, I love being able to see the actors.
Creed long take?
I haven't seen Creed. I need to go see it like now.
Yeah. And it just has a long take.
That's what I've read. It's awesome.
It's really good.
Yeah, I've read. It's awesome. And that's sort of like, I guess that's what we're trying to do.
But, you know, can't win them all. You can't play Dolph's kid.
Yeah, it's just, you know, it was a cool, tried to do different action. The hand-to-hand combat, and I think is really kinetic and really cool. So, you know, and Marauders is a different kind of action. So it's much more bank heist action-y kind of thing. So
you talked about when discussing horror, like if you made another horror film rather than going to do a remake, like making your horror film, like, and we were trying to prep you before going, like, what kind of ones do you like? And you mentioned Home Invasion and you mentioned slasher. What would be something that like you would be really excited is it those kind of subgenres? And
I also would love to revisit like the zombie genre of some kind, like even if it's not zombies themselves, like some kind of, you know, outbreak type movie, because I like those movies too. And I also feel like, you know, for my first movie, I didn't get to really fully put everything I wanted to be able to put into that movie. And, you know, when we had talked at Fox Atomic about rebooting it, we had all these crazy ideas. So I'd
would
love
you still
to
reboot it.
If I could, why not? Yeah. Like I would make it bigger and cooler and do something a little bit more grand. But you know, there's a few things that I'm reading right now that I really like that's in the horror world, and that I think is really different and kind of mixes a little bit of the genres that I like, which is horror and action. So yeah, it'd be great to go back and do something.
What are some of the films coming out now, like by some of your peers or like you know, the younger up and coming horror filmmakers that you're responding to? I don't know if you saw your next, just because I'm asking because it's a Home Invasion or
I love Adam. You know, like I think Adam's a good voice for the community. I think he has a lot of great ideas. I think he's always executing them really well. Like you know, it doesn't matter how much time or money this guy has. Is like the execution seems to be spot on every time.
I mean, the guest.
It's really cool, like how he does that stuff, and I really respect him for that. I think you got other filmmakers out. I think Eric England's interesting too. Like I like Eric. You know what I mean? I think Contracted was a really weird fucking movie, and so it's different. You know what I mean? You know, I'm trying to think who else I really like.
Not necessarily even young, just were there horror films in the last couple of years that knocked your... have you seen anything that knocked your socks off that was horror that wasn't, you know, besides maybe a Conjuring or a big blockbuster?
Well, I mean, It Follows as a movie that I was like, oh shit, this is a cool movie. Like different than anything I've seen that's visually stunning.
And John Carpenter agrees with us. So we'll take it.
I'll watch it again. It'll probably be in my top 10.
It probably will be.
Don't worry.
It's one of those movies. The second time I watched it, you know, it didn't have the same scares for me. But my God, some of the stuff it did was much more like sexual and weird than I remembered, and it made me like the movie even more.
Yeah, the first time for me too was better than the second time. Yeah, but the first time definitely I was like, this is
just
cool.
Unnerving. First time really works as a horror film to unnerve you.
I always sort of gauge it too on my wife and like how she reacts to movies because sometimes it's hard for me to completely get it because I'm thinking, how are they doing this? Watching, and so when I'm sitting there with her and she's freaking out, I'm like, okay, you know, this is really good. And, you know, I have to tell you, like one of our favorite movies and we'll watch it all the time is The Strangers. Like we watch that movie all the time because we love that movie.
Yeah, he must be. Is he got another one?
I don't know. After that, and then
I
what
thought
was
he had.
Mockingbird?
Mockingbird came out.
Post Mockingbird.
Mockingbird, February, right?
No,
that's Osprey.
Oh no, what's the one? Oh, it's called. He's doing a monster movie. I
Yeah,
think.
I'm pretty
God, I
sure
hope
he's got
so.
something because I really want to see him.
He's
make
shooting it
another film.
already. I think Brian.
Yeah.
I met Brian. He's really great. We talked about doing a movie together.
Yeah.
And the movie we're going to do together just didn't work out because it was too ensemble.
There was never a Strangers 2, though, right? Like,
No, there wasn't. In fact, God, I went in on.
script
I think
for it that
everybody
was
went on that
great.
movie. I was in on that movie like 100 times for that movie. But the script's actually pretty good. Yeah, I thought it was really cool. But yeah, that's a movie me and my wife watch constantly for some reason. We love that movie.
So she likes horror.
She likes horror. Yeah. She likes it to a degree.
Yeah.
She can handle it. She's not like, I'm going to watch it every week. It's like every now and then. She's cool. I mean, we both dug the Evil Dead remake. We were like, this is crazy.
Pretty cool.
Yeah,
the show is insane.
I'm still surprised when people. I mean, I got that people were a little defensive because you love Evil Dead, but it was just so well made.
It was well made.
I mean, he just knocked out of the park in terms of the visceral. You're talking about visceral before. It's like it feels more like an action film where you feel the hits, you feel the blows. Yeah,
and it's funny. I just met with Jen Levy today, and she was really cool. And she's Evil Dead. And
she was great.
She was great. We hung out, and I just kind of quizzed her real quick about how it was to make that movie. She was like, "It was crazy."
Yeah, that was shot in New Zealand too, right?
Yeah.
Same as the show. It's
She just said it was brutal, just brutal. But I mean, I was like, she loves it. But it looks great. I think it was a smart choice to make it the way they made it for sure.
Yeah. So if you had to choose a subgenre, would it be slasher or home invasion? If you had to,
I would try like a home invasion. Yeah, because slasher to me is so hard to get right that like I've been putting myself in a corner to try to figure out how to do it the right way and cool way. And
always
I
hard
know
to
because there's
reinvent.
so many of them, and we've seen so many.
It's just
like,
so
all right,
hard.
What's my new angle on
You've
all
seen an
this,
entire decade.
Really?
Yeah.
So people go, I've seen a few. You see, no, it's at
decade
least
worth.
10 more, or more years of a slasher genre.
What are some of your favorite slasher movies? Because the fun thing that we always talk about is like, all right, well, what's the new version of the slasher?
Yeah,
like,
what
how
would it
can you
be?
revitalize it? And the closest I've come to is saying like Final Destination in the 2000s. Because it's like, it's the slasher formula, but with an entity or whatever. Like, it's just,
Actually, you're right. That's pretty cool.
That's the
to
only
think
one
about
I
it that
could
way.
think of as a slasher that follows that same formula, one by one.
That you could keep having
they all get
sequels,
knocked out.
and it's the same sort of killer.
Yeah, pretty much.
ideally, and without doing anything
You
different.
never unmask them.
You never unmask them.
It has to have the Scooby Doo.
Yes, what are some of your
Friday the
favorites?
13th was my favorite slasher movie growing up. I mean, I watched part 2 was like awesome for me. I would remember watching part 2 like every other day when it first came out. I'm trying to think like what else is like the big ones that stick in my head, but Friday was like huge. In my sleepaway camp was like for some reason like a big deal for me when I was growing up. Did they make sequels to that?
Oh yeah,
there was a lot of them.
Quite a lot.
Yeah. God, that was a for some reason that one sticks out for me too. But
They're kind
Halloween,
of fun. 2, 3, and there's a fourth one as well.
and Halloween is like classic. Like I don't know how you do anything that matches the first Halloween though. Like I just don't know how anybody.
Yeah, I think that's why probably Rob Zombie went so different with it.
I think you had.
He probably knew that it's just what's the point?
Look, I wasn't a fan of that movie, but I think he had to do something complete. If you just went and did the same thing, I mean, everybody's going to give you shit anyway. So it's like do something completely different, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you gave it a shot at doing something completely different.
Yeah,
that's why I said I don't know how you make a slash. That's why for me doing a slasher movie, like even doing Silent Night was tough because it was like, well, I can't revamp it. I just got to try to make something that fits in.
Yeah. It had more of a thriller vibe to it. I like the idea of a Santa, like a guy wearing a Santa mask, like the clear, creepy mask. I thought that was kind of.
But now you got me like just so excited to see the Chopping Mall Santa. I wonder if that script's still out there.
You know what? I'm sure it is.
They could change the title, right?
Yeah, why not make it a Chopping Mall sequel?
That was the rights issue with that one was just the title. Of
it was the title, and in fact, actually, we went back and decided. We went back to the Weinsteins when they said that. I probably was like, well, let's just remake Christmas Evil, and let's make that the remake because I also like that.
You better
movie.
watch out.
You better watch out.
Either of those titles,
yeah, for sure. And
I
like
love Christmas Evil too. So
and so it was like they were like it's too because it was already close enough, I guess, to the producer, everybody who knew about it, and they were like, oh, they'll get on us. But the script was really cool, man. There was some really brutal stuff. And I think it was just like the opening that had me a lot too. It was like the opening was like kid going and sitting on Santa's lap. Mom was there. Mom was like, to her kids, like go up there with Santa. I'll be right back. She comes back and the kids are gone. she's got to search and find him. We go downstairs into this like abandoned Christmas haunted land underneath the mall, and there's Santa and these kids, and it's like fucked up, and you're just like, this is awesome.
Oh yeah, like a Freddy Krueger Santa, like a pretty terrifying.
It was pretty terrifying, dude. It was pretty crazy, and this kid gets lost in there, and he's running, and Santa's chasing him through there, all the broken bulbs, and all the crazy shit. It was really scary.
Send all your option inquiries straight to his Twitter, not our Twitter, because there's gonna be some.
No, that's it, dude. It was a really cool script. You're right. I wonder if it's still circulating. Who knows?
Yeah, I always thought that. I mean, also I think like sometimes the setting is such like Chopping Mall is memorable. Yes, the robots, but it's the mall. Dawn of the Dead. It's the mall. Well, there's just something about certain spaces,
especially for Christmas, though. I mean, because it's such a symbol of what Christmas has become. That like destroying it makes so much sense for a Christmas horror movie. You know what I mean? Like just destroying that symbol that's destroyed Christmas is like, I wanted to do that.
Yeah, all our holidays.
And what's even funnier about Silent Night, even funnier story is James Wan. James was going to produce it for a little bit, and me and James came up with a take of, funny enough, what we had taken that script for about 3 or 4 weeks. Me and James came up with an idea where we were going to do a Santa Claus more supernatural. And it was almost like this thin man who came to town and started eating kids and got bigger and bigger. And it was like the Santa Claus thing. But James got too big after it. It was like right when Insidious came. It was like, remember, it was Insidious that came out. And so
that was kind of the big one for him again.
Yeah. And then James kind of skyrocketed. So I was like, all right, James, I'll see you later. I'll stay down here and make Silent Night.
Have fun with Aquaman.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Where to come out? Have you seen you haven't seen Krampus yet, right?
I haven't seen Krampus, but I love Mike Doherty.
Yeah,
me and Mike are great. We're pretty good friends. And the writer, Todd Casey, and I grew up together. And so Todd's a really great guy. In fact, Todd was one of the guys at Fox Atomic at the time who was trying to reboot Automaton and stuff like that. So Todd, if you don't know, also wrote a lot of Batman the animated series stuff.
Oh, cool.
And so he's just a really big comic book guy. And so when I heard he was writing Krampus for Mike, I was like, this is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Is there a comic book franchise that if you in your wildest dreams you would be all over? Or any comic?
I mean, you know what? It would have been Suicide Squad, because Suicide Squad I loved. I thought that was fucking rad. It was always one of the ones that I was hooked on. There was also another comic called Area 52 that I really loved and that I actually got myself in to get attached to. I was in that world of development stuff. It's over at Image Comics. But there's a ton of stuff out there that I really like. But I really like any stuff Steve Niles does is really great. I love Steve. I think the way he puts things together is really cool.
Yeah, he's a unique voice in horror, especially for comics. I think horror comics. He's kind of one of the first names I think of, at least today. And kind of like relishes in that. That's his thing.
Yeah, we were just talking about Jessica Jones before. How it's just the character is so refreshing to see that kind of world.
It's so interesting that Netflix is able to capture some of this stuff. Like Daredevil and stuff like that. They just really find the essence of these things like immediately.
The villain in both of those shows is the best thing. They're both pretty incredible.
It's pretty crazy to me that the stuff they can get away with too. It's pretty awesome.
Well, it's adult.
It's so adult.
Sometimes Marvel's lacking, and I get why it's lacking because it's also for kids.
You know what blew my mind talking to Scott about this on now streaming. Yeah. As much as they get away with in Jessica Jones, you know that they never ever use the F word.
That's interesting.
And I was like, no, totally do.
Really?
And that's the thing you assume. And he's like, we're not. He's like, we don't use the F word at all. Huh. And I'm like, holy shit.
I don't doubt that.
Because it seems so violent. There's so much other things happening that it just feels like an R-rated show.
Yeah, because people
that's one of the things they don't.
They might not say it, but they're doing it.
There's definitely
there's a lot of sex.
It definitely feels R-rated.
It feels it, yeah.
And I bet you a lot of people don't even realize like Nick Cage literally took his name from Luke Cage. I mean, like he wanted to be
Nicolas
Luke Cage.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think that's like that common.
I had to explain that to people when the show started premiering.
Yeah,
no one knows who Luke Cage is.
Yeah,
that's pretty fun.
But it's pretty cool that Nick Cage like is this young guy going, my name's Nick Copland. I'm gonna there's this black superhero who no one knows about. It's like such a random. I love it
so much.
Nick is hilarious. I got to sit down with Nick like a few times, and he's very awesome.
Yeah,
like very awesome.
You almost worked with him on something.
I did. Yeah, it was Marauders. He was going to come do Marauders with Bruce, and then he got caught up. I think it was like some ship movie. I forget what it's called. U.S. Annapolis or something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I got to hang out with him a few times, and we had a good time. But he just really loves movies. He's very eccentric. He really is. He talks a lot, talks really fast. It was funny because the first time I met him, I had a jacket on, and so we were having lunch, and I took my jacket off, and I have some tattoos, and he goes, "Oh, you got tattoos? And he took his jacket off. He's like, I got some too. And that was our first conversation. It was like, really, it was pretty funny. And it was like maybe like one tattoo, but it was awesome. You know, he's funny.
He's one I never get sick. Like, it wouldn't matter if he makes the worst movie on earth. I'm always then curious what he'll do next.
Right.
Because he is like one of the most talented motherfuckers
He's
out
talented
there.
as shit.
He just is talented. Like,
yeah, if he just gets, when he gets the right material.
Good directors
great.
too.
Yeah,
I think
100%.
like a director kind of pushes them.
Well, I think a good director can bring him down. You know what I mean? Because Nick can just go up, and then you just don't.
Did you just say Deadfall? You haven't seen Deadfall? Oh my god, good lord! And that was directed by his brother, so no wonder no one was bringing him down on that movie.
Yeah, you really have to. I think you've really got to just kind of rein him in a little bit. But he really is. He's a fun guy.
Yeah, I thought it was. I just watched not too long ago that Superman documentary, The Death of Superman Lives. And
That's just crazy.
Some of the behind the scenes stuff with him and how he would have played it.
Yeah,
I mean, it would have been a weird fucking movie no matter what.
Yeah,
but now I'm even more curious. Like, I think Kevin Smith is quoted in saying, like, nowadays you say Nicolas Cage's Superman movie. Fuck yes, I want to see that.
I still love to see him in that world of a Marvel or a DC.
Yeah,
like,
me too.
I just don't know which character it would be. Like, you rack your brain going, what would it?
Well, Ghost Rider doesn't work at all.
No. But that was never good. That was also because who's thinking of making like a G-rated Ghost Rider? Ghost Rider is the hardest R you could ever come up with.
It should have been super dark. It should have been crazy.
I actually, the more I think about it, I feel like that now that we're seeing shows like Jessica, I feel like
Netflix.
The Blade Ghost Rider. I can't remember what that series was called when I was young. There was a comic that had the two of them together, and it was dark as hell. It was all about hell, but man, if you could get that world and get Blade back.
The first Blade was pretty dark.
Yeah. First two Blades movies were both solid, and
Guillermo, the second one was great.
I thought,
the third one kind of goes, but the first two.
Who did the third? Norrington, maybe? I can't.
No,
David
Goyer, who wrote them all. He got his directorial debut.
The second one was pretty brutal.
Norrington did the first one.
That's
Norrington, and he did good. That scene in the club.
Club is so great.
And Stephen Dorff
starts raining blood everywhere. You're just like, yes.
Yeah, I got to get him on the show. I told you I met him not too long ago.
That's right. Yeah.
Steve Norrington, and he seemed awesome.
Really?
And I mean, he hasn't directed since League of Extraordinary Gentlemen because him and Connery like had it out or whatever. But he would be fun to talk to, and I love Blade.
Yeah, I mean, we have Wesley next week, so we'll want to space it out.
We'll work it out.
We always bet on black. Don't ever know. So what's coming up next? Like, is it just all still? It's all discussing, like you said with Bruce. Do you now to keep going, to keep this drain moving? Yeah. Do you have to have multiple things at every one time? So you're
You constantly like trying to find like I'm reading 4 or 5 things, saying yes to 4 or 5 things because inevitably most of them will die. You know what I mean? So it's like yes, like this, yes, like this, yes, like this. Okay, whoever says go first, that's what I'm doing. So that's sort of how I keep it open when I'm talking to everyone is like, okay, I like it. Get ready to go first and we'll go. I mean, the next things, are Lionsgate and those guys have a few things non-Bruce that they really like me for. And then there's this other movie called Office Uprising. That's sort of an indie, a little bit bigger budget than I've had before, even than the past 2 Bruce movies. And that's sort of like a horror-esque action movie, which it's really called How to Survive an Office Uprising. So it's pretty, the script's really fun. So there's a couple of things that are just sort of swirling right now and depends on what gets done. Another Travis Stevens project that me and him have been trying to do called Death Penalty, which is sort of a futuristic, almost like Con Air in the future. And so we're trying to get this thing rolling. Maybe we'll get it done. And then that's about it right now.
Is it as hard as so many, a lot of guests will say, oh, it's so hard to get that from one thing. And you are rolling from film to film, but it is still changed a lot. And the kind of budgets have changed. The amount of time you get to film now has changed.
Challenging.
Yeah.
It's changed because they don't really make, those movies. When I first got out here, they were making like these $20 to $30 million movies that like me as a filmmaker could go do as a segue to making the bigger ones. Now, they don't do that. So those filmmakers that were making 20 or 30 films that are bigger, like Rob Zombie and those guys, now come down and making the 10 million where I'm at. So it's hard because I'm fighting with those guys to make some of these movies, which is why I sort of shifted into the action thriller world because there's not much of that competition as there is in a horror world.
And it's a lot of it's based on foreign sales, right?
Yeah, it is.
And action is still selling.
Action still sells, and it helps when you do Bruce movies that your name suddenly becomes
like Nick Cage or Bruce.
Yeah, your name suddenly becomes associated with that, and so all of a sudden your name foreign sales wise. Oh, that's the guy that made that. Okay, now let's just give him this action movie. So it's actually been a little easier for me to get movies coming in quicker. With the horror world, it was like, it had to take its time. People had to figure out who is this person that's in your movie. You know what I mean? So it's like right now I'm in a good spot because I can make sort of these movies couple of them, and then hopefully people are like, okay, let's give him the bigger one. But right now, I'll just keep kind of trudging.
So you're going to have 2 films out pretty much in the same month, right? With Submerged,
and then
now, and then
in December 18th is Extraction.
Wow.
Extraction planned theaters. Will we be able to?
You'll be able to check it out in theaters. Yep. I don't know how many. I think it's like 100 or 200 screens.
Yeah.
Is it VOD same time?
Same time VOD.
Cool.
And then they'll do the Blu-ray in January. I think it's a fun movie to see in the theater. Like I haven't seen it like non-theatrical. Like I got to see it on a few screens, and so in the theater it's loud and it's fucking crazy. It's a lot of fun. So I'm excited to see how it does.
Blow some shit up.
Blow some shit up.
Yeah,
I think that's a pretty amazing leap, to get from, like you said, you're a few $1,000s short to these 2 Bruce Willis movies. It's cool. I mean, that's a working career, and you're working it. That's great.
Yeah, man, just trying to keep busy, and like you got kids to feed. So
that's the big motivator.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Steven, so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, had a blast.
POV, episode 126. Thank you so much for listening, guys.
Yeah, we'll check those movies out.
Yeah, absolutely. Submerged is now in limited theatrical and VOD. And like you said, December 18th is Extraction.
Wait, and did I see Mario Van Peebles in that trailer?
Mario Van Peebles. And he kicks some ass in there, dude.
I think
he has
Spoon
a fun fight sequence. New Jack City for me, dude. New Jack City.
Jaws the Revenge for me,
I
baby.
used to be Pookie. I love New Jack City.
Yeah, I do too.
Judd Nelson as well, right?
I do too.
That's good stuff. Yeah, okay, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Bye-bye.